What's up, my friends? Welcome to another video. I'm Rob Stewart, and I'm here to help you get your skin and your overall health back on track. In today's video, I had a really dynamic and obviously long conversation with a good friend of mine named Sean McCormick. Now, if you don't know Sean, this video is going to be really great for people who are looking to get some great pointers about healing the body in all these different forms. Sean is an OG in the holistic health game, and lately he's been doing a lot of amazing research and deep dives, both personally and with clients, into dry fasting. Now, those of you guys who know me know that I have a big background in water fasting. So in today's video, we're going to be covering a lot of topics: dry fasting compared to water fasting, how to do the protocols for healing, how to come out of a dry fast the right way. We're also going to talk about both myself and Sean's experience with carnivore diet, especially when we're talking about adding carbohydrates to a carnivore diet. Should you do it? Is it more beneficial? What is our experience? You're going to find out in today's video as well. Some other topics that we cover deeply that I think you guys will really like, that will help you on your healing journey, whether that's from gut biome issues, hormone issues, digestion issues, and especially eczema, dermatitis, psoriasis, and rosacea. Fiber. We're going to be talking about fiber, probiotics, and gut biome health, and the true way to make your gut biome actually good enough to be able to heal these things. Lastly, another thing that we're going to talk about in this video is salt flushes and coffee enemas. You guys know that those have been my bread and butter for almost 20 years, but there are some new approaches that we've been taking to using them, and I'm going to go over exactly what those are in today's video as well. And we're also going to talk about a bunch of other random great stuff, all about healing. We're also going to jump into the emotions and the spiritual side of things, which we go really deep, and you're not going to want to miss that because, to be honest, so many people trying to heal completely neglect their emotions, their stress, and their spirituality, and it really holds them back. So I hope you guys enjoy. Let's jump in. You're looking tan and fit, brother.
You know, I try to get as much sun as I can, which is challenging up here in the Pacific Northwest. Doing a lot of jiu-jitsu these days, training for competition that comes up in a couple weeks. Changed my nutrition a little bit, you know, as always, tinkering around with this and that. Yeah.
What have you done with your diet? I'm curious.
Yeah, well, this is going to tie in perfectly. I've eaten a lot more fruit recently. A lot more fruit. You know, for the amount of activity that I do, jiu-jitsu, 4 or 5 days a week, some runs, X3 bar, and, coaching jits and coaching soccer. I'm super busy, and the low carb, hardcore carnivore stuff just wasn't doing it for me. And so, kind of front loading fruit in the beginning part of the day has helped a lot with my energy and it burn it off.
Yeah, man, I'm seeing this kind of come up with a lot of people, especially in my work with clients too, with people who are a little bit more athletic or trying to put on some muscle, or the other part is people who've been in a ketogenic or carnivore diet for like over a year. I'm starting to see similar things happen that had happened to like Paul Saladino or some other people in this space, and I think that there are some like preliminary data points that we can look at that might be suggesting some things. And I know we're going to kind of jump into this a little bit today deeper, but I always find it fascinating when people, I'm not going to name any names, but there's one specific dude that I'm thinking about.
We'll just edit this out. You can name names. You're in the trust tree.
Yeah. I don't even want to, I just don't even want to put it out for just karmic sake, because he's a well-known dude, and he's strict carnivore.
Yeah.
And I believe he's honest, and I believe he's pretty transparent, but his blood work is like, if my mom or dad came to me with that blood work, I would be like, it would be emergency mode. And I'm not saying that laboratory blood work is really the end all be all, because there's a lot of context and nuance there as well. But I do kind of find it alarming as just someone who tried to still look at things holistically and logically, some heavy science, but not too much, some bro science, but not too much, my own experience, but not too much. Just kind of, and when labs are that bad, I just don't see people ending up that healthy.
Ah, interesting. Well, I mean, I've only got a couple of guesses, and I won't name the names either. But it's interesting that they posted their blood work, and age is a major factor depending on the age of this person that we're referencing. But yeah, you're right. You're right. The laboratory blood work is maybe not as it tells a story, tells a snapshot, but if there's things that are real wonky, whether it's inflammatory markers or, minerals or, hormone issues, which I wonder a lot about hormone issues, in people who just haven't had an apple in 6 years or 10 years. It's interesting that you're saying that, because it's intuitive to eat meat, and it's also intuitive to eat fruit. Nobody loves vegetables. And so if you're kind of staying away from sulfurous vegetables and broccoli doesn't turn you on, there's a story there. There's a genetic predisposition to eat that way. And if you are really active, like my audience is, and like you are, and like I am, like I gotta have something to fuel, because I'm burning so much that, yeah, the days of hardcore just ribeyes and eggs and bacon for 6 months in a row, it's not sustainable for me personally.
Yeah, I'm super interested into, when we jump back into this topic, kind of going deep into this, because I have some really strong opinions and beliefs around this, and I have a lot of experience. I mean, I've done strict vegan over 8 years. I've done a pretty strict carnivore diet for 3 straight years. And I've done, things in between, a ketogenic diet. I've messed around with like a balanced macro diet, and all of it's fully customized to my own needs. But I've uncovered some findings that I'm really kind of excited to share with people, especially those of us who our goal is not to be a part of a dogmatic community, but just to like be vibrant, healthy, virile humans who can hopefully make some babies and have an enjoyable life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally right. When we're teasing this pretty hardcore. I have a curveball I want to throw at you when it comes to fiber, and sort of animal based with fruit. When we get there, I want to get your take on it.
Very cool. Yeah, we have a nice show for you guys today. So for those of you who are watching from my side, Sean and I are going to do kind of a weird podcast today. We both are kind of going to interview each other. We're going to have just a conversation. We have some questions that we are kind of dying to ask each other, and we're going to just have a nice conversation. It might go 15 minutes. It might go 15 hours. We don't know. We're kind of jumping into this thing, but for those of you who don't know Sean, from my end of things, Sean is a dude who I've known now for a couple years, and I was on his podcast, I believe 3 or 4 years ago, maybe even more now.
I think it was more like 5. Yeah.
Wow. And I've kind of watched Sean transform, like we all do, right? Over social media, you keep tabs on your friends, and it's cool because you can physically see what they're doing and how they're changing. And I've seen Sean go from, you went from a guy who was already healthy, a guy who was pretty dialed in, a guy who'd been doing this stuff in your own way holistically for years. And then I saw, as time went on, you really hone things in with your daily habits and your mindset. And as you did more podcasting, talked to more people, and honed in your own path, I like looking at you today, you look like a different dude. You look like way younger. You look a lot more strong, a lot more fit. I'm really, one of the things that I I kind of wanted to jump right into today with you.
Let's go.
Is a big part of your journey, and this is something I love, is the metaphysical, spiritual, and emotional aspect of it. You don't shy away from. In fact, you go pretty balls deep into all that stuff.
I do.
I might even say that that's almost what transformed your physical, was the emotional, spiritual, mental side of things. And I kind of found my spirituality the opposite way, through the physical into the emotional. I feel like you kind of went the opposite way, but it's now well-rounded. With that said, you have been on a dry fasting journey for probably a little while now, but I've been seeing it mostly over the past year. And first of all, like, why would going without food or water, for 5 or 7 days or more for some people, be beneficial? And like, how does that initiate power, spiritual power, physical power, emotional power? And by power, I mean empowerment, self-empowerment. How does that work? Like, for the layman out there, because there's a lot of people that will just straight up right away, when I talk about fasting, 2 things come up: not eating any calories. How the heck do you sustain body weight, body fat, hormones? And then on top of that, even more gangster, dry fasting, meaning not taking in water much or at all. So dive into that for us.
Yeah. Well, I think you, like me, have experimented with different forms of fasting for a very long time. I've done 15 to 20 multiple day water only fasts, and I've gone from, just structured water that's out of the spring where I gather my water. I haven't drank tap water in probably 20 years, to, a dozen bottles of Topo Chico a day and Gerolsteiner and mineral water, going all the way to, adding minerals or essential amino acids to enhance the results and my energy during a water only fast. And so I have a lot of experience doing that, and it always sucks for me. I get caffeine withdrawal headaches. I get upset stomach. I get brain fog like crazy. I get lethargy. And so it's funny, I first heard about dry fasting. And when I heard that term, I was like, no, you're not going without food and water for real. Was Dr. John Jaquish, the creator of OsteoStrong and the X3 bar. So this was like maybe 6-7 years ago when I interviewed him on my podcast, talking about the X3 bar, which is still my #1 source for strength training. And he's like, yeah, when I'm doing a photo shoot, I'll just dry fast. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, no food, no water for a couple of days. And I was like, I wasn't ready to hear it. So I just sort of was like, okay, moving on. That sounds insane to me. I don't know why anybody would ever do that. And then it's, like these things do, there's a seed that's planted and then it sort of grows in your awareness. And I kept coming across it here and there, and finally read the book, The Phoenix Protocol by August Dunning. And he makes a really compelling case. More interestingly, he cataloged his journey of dry fasting on his YouTube channel. And you can go to August Dunning's YouTube channel. You can watch his oldest videos and how he looks and how he sounds and his posture, how his skin looks, his level of energy. You can tell immediately when someone is on a video. If you go look at his oldest videos where he first starts dry fasting, and then his newest videos where he's been now dry fasting for 5 days, twice a year. Dry fasting is no food, no water for 5 days. Over the course of the years, he Benjamin Buttons. He literally ages backwards, and you can see it. You can watch these little 4-minute videos where he's on the beach walking, and he's like, today's day 3 of my dry fast, and what's happening now is, deep ketosis and incredible autophagy is happening right now. My cells are turning on. My dysfunctional cells are being burnt up in the internal furnace for energy, et cetera, et cetera. So he describes all of it. And so I was like, all right, this is definitely worth looking at. I have my friend who would also be an excellent person to interview because he is just an encyclopedia for forgotten health knowledge, Theo Lucier, who makes humic and fulvic products that are like the best in the world. he and I were talking one day, and he's like, you ever thought about dry fasting? And I was like, okay, have you done it? And he's like, yeah, I've done it, and it's wild. I was like, what was it like? And he's like, well, the physical benefits are immense, but even more so than the physical benefits of, you know, scar tissue repairing itself, a stem cell, an endogenous stem cell release on days 4 and 5, where the crevices in your femur release stem cells into your body, essentially to keep you alive, that are perfect for you, they're pluripotent, which means they can become any cell that they need to. So if you have a shoulder injury in a tendon, the stem cell will go to that tendon. If you have brain injuries like he did from Taekwondo, Olympic style Taekwondo, cleaned up his brain. Some of the we can talk about the incredible stories, but he's like, in addition to the physical benefits, and there are many, it's also an emotional, psychological, spiritual, and lifestyle transformation. Just because you are going through something that very few people in the world go through. You are abstaining from food and water. And when you do that, your body changes, your perspective changes, your appreciation for life changes, your appreciation for a sip of water changes forever. So I said, okay, I'm going to, as weird and experimental as I am in many different ways, I'm going to do my research. So I read the book. I looked at some of the older research from the Russian doctors, specifically Shishnikov and Filanov, where they were talking about, like, not only can you do it, but when you do it, your body goes through a massive amount of transformation, an intercellular cleanup. The insides of your cells, which is really hard to do, get cleaned up and detoxified, senescent cells. Anyway, so I did one. I found a buddy of mine, a former Army Ranger who is a black belt and an absolute animal. I was like, hey, Greg, will you do this with me? And he's like, what is it? And I was like, we're just not going to eat or drink for 5 days. And he's like, I'm in. So him and his wife did it with me my first time. And it was a massively spiritual experience. It was hard. It was challenging. My prayers and meditation were really tough. You know, I don't know how long we want to stay on this, but at one point, day 4.5, when I was almost done with my 5-day dry fast, I sat down again to meditate, and, you know, there's nothing to do. You're not eating. You're just kind of surviving, really, like laying low. I sat in meditation for probably the 20th time in that 5 days. I was like, this is really hard. I can't focus. My awareness is all over the place. This is really frustrating for me, but I'm going to do it again. This was like 4 a.m. My wife and kids were in the backyard camping in the tent. It was the summertime. I was laying in the bed just like, what am I doing? Why did I do this? I'm going to meditate again. I got in. I'd been sitting there for about 45 minutes, and I'm like, I'm getting nowhere. Like, I can't get into that theta brainwave state. I can't get into that oneness that I'm so familiar with. I've been meditating since I was 12, and this is the hardest time I've ever had, until all of a sudden, the quiet and the frustration that I was experiencing doing my meditation practice made like this like the dam broke. And this cacophony of sound and music and voices and lights and shaking in my body and convulsions all just like broke through. And it was a lot. It was really, really intense. And I was thinking to myself, what is happening here? What is going on? This is unusual for my meditation practice. And it was loud and busy in my consciousness, but I was deep. I was 9 miles deep in my meditation, just trying to put together everything that was going through my awareness and consciousness, you know, going back to my method, even though it was super noisy. And then it stopped. As quickly as it came in, it just like stopped. And I was like, that was the weirdest thing I've ever experienced. So Fast forward a couple hours, my wife takes me to the store to get some supplies for my rehydration and renourishment after the 5 days. And I'm explaining this to her, and I was like, hey, listen, you know, I got to share this with you because I don't know what to think about it. But, I have a connection with my spirit guides and angels and masters. I have a deep connection with God in my meditations. It was super frustrating all week. And all of a sudden it went from I couldn't tap in to I was overwhelmed by my meditation. And she's like, what do you think about that? And I was like, I don't know what I think about that. And as I said, I don't know what I think about that, I got this sense of peace and calm that came over me as we're in the car on the way back from the grocery store. And I was like, it's all part of this cosmic drama playing out. I don't need to know why. I don't have to have the answers about why this happened during my dry fast, but it was profound. And it was this like little cosmic giggle from the universe that came in through my meditation. And if you look at the literature on dry fasting, there are references in every major religion and every smaller religion in the world. St. John the Baptist dry fasted. There's notations for that. Ramadan is a controlled full moon cycle of dry fasting during the sunlight hours. There's so many references, and I'm like, there's a connection here. It's purification, it's suffering, it's controlled suffering, it's all these things. So that was a really profound moment. And everyone that does the dry fasting with us, we have a group, it's called Dry Fast with Friends. You can go to dryfastwithfriends.com. Everybody has that moment, not necessarily like that, but they have this moment of clarity in that experience that is profound and lasts forever.
Wow. Thanks for sharing that, man. I have had such similar experiences with different forms of intermittent fasting combined with spiritual work and meditation and prayer. And there does seem to be like a dam that can break. I had one recently. It was kind of funny. I have these nephews, and they're both like 21 years old and like 19. And they're like such rad young dudes. One's going to be an electrician. One already is a welder. And real quick, and we'll jump right back into the podcast. For those of you who are looking to join the free online community /course that I offer, where we do live Q&As, a 56 or 57 video series explaining how to customize the diet, heal the gut biome, cleanse and detox. It's an amazing free community. I hope to see you guys there. Also, links for private coaching. If you're ready to take your skin health to the next level and you want someone to guide you through the process who's worked with over 3,000 people and have had great success, the links will be in the description box for one-on-one coaching with me. Let's get back to the podcast. They've been into fitness and health for as long as I can remember, especially for young dudes, and they're in great shape. And one of them at one point was like, "Have you ever done any intermittent fasting, Uncle Robbie?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I've done some of that. Have you ever done any like water fasting?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I go over all these different things with them. And as I'm kind of like explaining to these kind of young, vibrant, buff kids about these kind of spiritual experiences, I can see something in their eyes, like certain curiosity, or a certain, maybe even a disbelief. And where I'm getting at with this is I'm wondering if you can kind of walk through for people a basic methodology of how to prepare yourself to have that happen. Because if I'm listening to you, I'm thinking, I want that. How do I facilitate that? So could you go into actually more detail about like do you sip any water during a dry fast? What are the days like? And how does someone go from day one where, listen, day one and day two and day three are most likely just going to be the pits of hell, right? They're going to be tough. Beyond that, it gets interesting. Give people a little firsthand guide to maybe their first try at this thing. And those people who are like, I want the health, but I also want that. I want that.
Yeah.
crazy psychedelic experience. Because I will tell you this, when you hit a Kundalini experience or a come to Jesus moment or a second of enlightenment sober,
Yes.
you almost never think about doing psychedelics or drugs in any way, shape, or form again. It's like that stuff is baby stuff.
Yeah, good. That's a great point. It is totally different than the ayahuasca ceremonies that I've done. It is totally different than even a heroic dose of psilocybin in the woods, which is something I do pretty regularly. When you do it on the natch, as Terrence McKenna calls it, on the natch, au natural, in a float tank, or in this case, day 4.5 of a 5-day dry fast, no food, no water. It is a different experience altogether. I speculate that maybe it has something to do with some endogenous DMT release.
Or have you heard about this? Not to interrupt, but this is super crazy. I've always believed that, right? Like we do have some form of exogenous DMT release. And then also like there's that after workout high, right? And we always just thought, oh, that's your body super oxygenated, circulation's banging, stress levels are down, cortisol is low, GH and hormones are high. You're just feeling good. I've started to see some evidence that our body produces marijuana-like cannabinoids.
Yeah.
Cannabinoids when we work out. And like Wim Hof says, like getting high on your own supply, we might actually, when you hit a hard workout or when you have a spiritual awakening, it might also be your body releasing your body's natural weed inside of you, and you're just getting blazed on your own natural stuff.
Right. The stuff inside of us is weird enough. It really is weird enough. And you can tap into it through breath, through dance, through meditation, through dry fasting. There's so many avenues to experience that natural, whether it's your endocannabinoid system, whether it's a DMT release, whether it's just, endorphins that come from exercise, like a runner's high. But back to the sort of framing of this. So
Yeah.
This is something that you should take very seriously. This is something that you can't just decide to go without food and water for 5 days and expect it to go well. It's not going to go well. There is a really high emphasis on making sure you're opening up detox pathways before you get into this. So doing certain detoxification strategies beforehand, whether it's, high level psyllium husk to clear out the digestive tract, sweating, liver and gallbladder flushes ahead of time, making sure that when you get rid of the stuff that you will get rid of during your dry fast, the channels are open, because you don't want to be stewing in your own, senescent cells, zombie cells in your body that are dead and kicking around. You don't want to hold on to those. You want to be able to get rid of the parasites that you're starving to death and later excreting during this process. So there is a pretty elaborate process of opening up detox pathways before jumping into this. We have coined a phrase, intermittent dry fasting. There is some really excellent research that looks at 24 to 36 hour dry fasting combined with 6 miles of walking during that time period for rapid fat loss. The idea is when you are abstaining from food and water, you're giving your digestion. And here's an important distinction. Dry fasting and water only fasting are totally different things.
Yes.
When you're water only fasting, you are activating your digestion and your internal organs. The moment you have a piece of gum, you're creating saliva that's then signaling down the chain of your digestion that something's coming, something's coming in, we got to digest it. The benefit of a dry fast is that you shut things down completely. You're giving all of your systems a rest when you're doing a dry fast. The research suggests that when you're doing water only fast, there's a fair bit of muscle loss. Your body begins to use your muscle for energy. Makes sense. You know, we're not getting any food, so we got to use what you got in order for you to walk down the road. When you do a dry fast, it doesn't access and it doesn't attack and use that muscle. It uses the muscle last. So it's eating up fat. It's eating, and the way that the researchers kind of describe it as is like it turns on a furnace, an internal furnace inside your body that uses senescent cells, toxins, even scar tissue. Like most people who have scars of any type notice that the scars get red and inflamed and sometimes a little bit sore. And what it's happening is that those scars are being scraped and cleaned up to be used for energy. So even before you start to lose muscle, you're using everything else. You urinate the entire 5 days of the dry fast, which is also shocking. And for a lot of people, your urine changes from either clear or pale yellow, in my case, to like iced tea and thick, because you are getting rid of fat. Fat is leaving your body. Same with other things. And there's so much here. We could spend so much time here, but I want to get to the point a little bit. No, you cannot have a sip of water. A sip of water will end your dry fast. So you do some preparation, you do some detoxes to kind of prime the pump. You know, you don't want to eat lasagna and red wine the night before you go into
pre-fast meal, baby.
Yeah, right. Yeah, not a good idea. So you eat lightly for a couple of days beforehand, and then you dive into the dry fast. Day 1 and day 2 for most people is not that bad. It's not that bad. You have to resist the urge to grab the beverage that's next to you and take a drink of it, but it's all mental. Days 1 and 2, pretty straightforward, not a big deal. Most people work and live their normal, day to day for those first 2 days. Day 3 is when it gets pretty challenging. Day 3 is when you drop into really deep ketosis. Day 3 is when you are going through an intense healing process, and your body is going, okay, what are we doing here? Are we getting food or water, or are we not? And if not, we got to kick on some reserves. We've got to amplify what the body is able to do through the release of stem cells on day 4. But day 3 is always the hardest day. The interesting thing, Rob, is that most people who are older, let's just say 50 plus, they have a much easier time with dry fasting. They're already kind of dehydrated already. That's
I laugh because I'm inching up on 50, man. It's coming up on me fast, and it's wild.
You look 36, so you don't worry about it. The people who are over 50 who are already a little dehydrated, they tolerate it much better. When we've done dry fasting with friends groups before, we've had people in their 80s who are just living their normal life, even doing exercises and workouts on days 3, 4, and 5, which shocked me when I first heard about it. Day 3 is typically the most challenging day. Day 4 is also hard, but you do, and I experience, and a lot of people that do the dry fasting with us, they experience that stem cell release. It actually feels like you go from, man, I'm really tired. I got a little brain fog. I'm not good for conversation. My throat is really dry because I haven't lubricated with any liquid. And then all of a sudden the stem cells kick in, and it feels like suddenly like a shot of espresso. It's like, oh, where's all this coming from? In fact, on day 4, the last time I did a 5-day, I came downstairs. My family was doing their thing, and I started doing dishes and laundry and contributing to my household, for the first time in a couple of days. And my wife goes, "What are you doing?" And I go, "I just feel really good. Maybe the stem cells are kicking in, maybe they're being released, but I feel a ton of energy." And she's like, "You better slow your pace down, pal. I appreciate you coming down and helping out, but you don't need to be productive today." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I went for a walk. We went down to the beach and I got into the water, which I'll talk about in a second. You can actually be in water. You can have water on you in what's called a soft dry fast. You can do cold plunges. You can open your eyes in the water. In fact, it's really refreshing when you're going through a dry fast to open your eyes underwater, because it feels like you're drinking water through your eyeballs. Doing this one, oh, that feels so good. But day 4 is a shift that even if it's fleeting, you're getting those stem cells and it's changing. Day 5, you're like, oh man, I see the finish line. I'm pretty tired. I'm hungry. The interesting thing is you don't feel that thirsty, and that sounds insane to say, but you don't feel you have a dry mouth, but the urge to drink is not very strong. It's just the habitual sipping on a beverage that you have that's all a mental thing. And then by the time you get to day 4.5, day 4 3/4, as you're marching toward that beautiful moment where you get to sip some liquid very, very slowly, so that you don't overwhelm your pancreas, you don't overwhelm your digestion. That's when it's like, man, I see the finish line and I'm almost there. Then it's kind of a head game a little bit. So occupying yourself, is really important. So I'll make the distinction. There's such thing as called a hard dry fast, where you don't even touch water. You cannot touch it because your body has pores, and you actually...
So no shower, no swimming, no running through the sprinklers.
No showers, no swimming. In a dry fast, you don't brush your teeth at all, which is gross because a lot of people get like a white film on their tongue and on their gums, which is white blood cells actually repairing your oral microbiome. But in a hard dry fast, you're not touching water at all. And in a soft dry fast, you can do what I did, which is, I showered with mouth tape. That was what I did at first. And then eventually I was going into, the cold plunge with my mouth tight and my nose tight, and I would just submerge. I had another fascinating spiritual experience swimming in the Puget Sound here in the Pacific Northwest at 55-degree water in the summertime, like animals. I'm telling you, I'll tell this one really quick just because it's fun.
No rush, brother.
So this was day 4, and I had a little bit more energy, and so I was like, hey, let's go to the beach. And everybody's like, okay. So we go to the beach, my wife and 2 kids and I, and they sat on the beach. Sunlight, you got to be careful with because you're sensitive, when you're that dehydrated. But I got lots of sun. I got grounding, my feet on the ground, and I walked out into the water. Now the water is 55 degrees, and for context, that's cold. That's really cold. It's not ice barrel cold. It's not plunge cold immersion cold, but it's cold enough to go woo. When you get up to your waist, if you know what I'm saying, boys. So I get out into the water, and I'm just kind of like spacing out. And I'm looking around, and all of a sudden I see a fish, and I'm like, hey, look at that fish go by. And I'm watching it, and I'm really still. My soul is still, my brain is still, my body is still. I don't have a ton of energy. I'm just like literally spacing out in the water. My kids are off somewhere else playing. And then I see another fish swim by, and I'm like, that's a little weird that they're swimming this close to me. It's kind of unusual. I'm out here all the time, and this has never happened. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching, and another fish goes by. A flounder goes by. A dogfish. If you've ever seen a dogfish is a shark. It's a basically 2 feet long shark with this weird dog looking head. It's a shark. And I've never swam in the Puget Sound in the Pacific Northwest around a dogfish. As soon as you get anywhere near it, it swims off, and it swims up to me. And I'm like, what in the hell is going on? I'm like, Cinderella over here with all these animals. I feel like a Disney character princess with all these animals swimming up to me. And so I crouch down and I sort of submerge myself into my water up to my head. And I'm just like getting close. And there are crabs, a dogfish, a flounder, and all sorts of other little minnows all coming and swimming up to me. And I'm like, am I hallucinating?
I'm not tripping.
Am I tripping again? No, I can't explain it. I don't know how or why, but I was in so much gratitude for my life. I was in such stillness and calmness in my body and my brain and my awareness that I was like blending in with nature. I was like a part of nature in a way that I don't think I've ever had before, especially on the natch, without the aid of some ayahuasca or psilocybin or LSD. And I got out of the water and I go back to my wife and I was like, just wait till you hear what I just saw. She's like, so I tell her the story and she's like, are you sure you saw that? Like, did you want to see that? Did you think you saw that? Or was that what really happened? I was like, I'm pretty sure that was real. So there's so much in it. And it's not, we're not making this up. We're not creating the idea of a dry fast. This is ancient, archaic stuff. Everyone's ancestors went for periods of multiple days without food and water. And guess what? The body knows what to do. The body knows how to survive and to turn on things and to turn off things in order for you to survive. We have had a couple of people in our dry fast group that have gone to 7 days. Anything past 7, you really should be with a doctor. You should be doing it at a clinic. And there are places in the world, Mongolia mainly, where they will do 11-day dry fasts under supervision with a medical team. And these are people who are dealing with, I don't want to say YouTube triggering words. They're dealing with serious health issues, terminal health issues. And they're going over there to say, I've tried chemo, I've tried all of these things. Nothing is working. I'm not getting help. I'm just going to go to Mongolia and do a dry fast and see how that works. And guess what? The results are pretty astounding. So this is certainly not a weight loss thing. This is something much, much deeper. And it reset. I lost 18 pounds. I shrunk my love handles. My face looked more youthful afterward. And so now my plan going forward will be once or twice a year, I'll do a 5-day dry fast. If I ever get real sick, I'll do a 7-day dry fast because the body knows what to do. And I know that you vibe with that.
Yeah, that's rad. So setting the stage is important, getting the pathways of elimination open, working correctly, probably maybe even lowering your calories and doing like a pre-diet for this. And also then probably, and you didn't mention this, but I kind of know you already do this, setting intentions for the fast ahead of time.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of sets you in spiritual alignment. Then you go through these processes. As you're talking about it, I wonder if you've had this experience where, because I don't have much experience with dry fasting. That's why I love talking to you about it. But I do have a lot with water fasting, almost too much. Doing things too much is how you learn where your limit is sometimes. But with water fasting, it's kind of the opposite. The first day, second day, third day are like hell on wheels. Like it's like, strangely, if I just forget to eat and then eat dinner, I don't really notice it. But first day of a water fast, it's noon and I'm like tripping out. Like I feel like I'm dying. I feel like I've never eaten anything. I feel emotionally sensitive. I feel frustrated. I feel angry. I'm starving and I want junk food, which I never even want. Day 2 seems to be even worse. And then around day 3, when ketosis starts to really hit, then with water that switches and you do kind of get into, and I'm not going to exaggerate this, where some people say, oh, once you get into ketosis, you feel amazing and you have no cares in the world and God opens up to you and you don't even want food. I haven't experienced it that fully. I always feel like I want food and I feel a little hungry, but once the ketosis turns on, like deeply in a water fast, the spiritual power is ignited. Yeah. And that is when I have experienced kind of the most psychedelic and deep spiritual and emotional transformations in my psyche and in my soul, were during times of having 0 calories in my system. I'm curious as to so you've gone through 5 days, you've gone through 6 days, maybe some people go all the way through 7 days. Then what? Then, Pizza Hut, ribeye, like what's the rehydration process, re-eating process, and kind of like also share some, words of wisdom so people don't mess that up. Cause you can basically ruin all the work in one bite.
Yeah, you can. Yeah. Well, and again, like you have to please don't do this. Like, don't just listen to this and go, cool, I'm just going to not eat or drink for 3 or 5 days. Like, don't do that. I'm telling you, don't do it. it takes a lot of preparation. You need to know how to enter into the dry fast, and even more critically, you have to know how to exit the dry fast. We map all of this out. we give you a guide, we give you a cookbook, a recipe book for exiting the fast with nourishing food. Again, and not to plug this, but we've put a lot of work into it, and we've made it really simple and easy to follow. If you go to dryfastwithfriends.com, like, you're going to learn a whole bunch real fast. If you rush in with too many minerals, if you rush in with too much sugar, like if you rush in with too much food or even too much water at the end of the dry fast, you're going to overwhelm your system. You're going to potentially get some pretty serious edema, which is a swelling, right? Edema is not fun. If you overdo the sugar too early, you could overwhelm your pancreas. You could overwhelm your pancreas and cause some damage to it. Your pancreas is really important. And if you have too much sugar, like really any in the beginning, couple of days, you're going to stress your internal organs. So what we suggest, and it's kind of shifted over the years, it's kind of interesting. The Russians have a way of doing it. They
always do.
Yeah, right. Like, they have a way of doing it. August Dunning, when he wrote the Phoenix Protocol, suggested this beverage. It's like tangy tangerine, which is like are you familiar with tangy tangerine? Yeah. It's got sugar in it. It's got a lot of sugar in it. And so he's backed off of that since he wrote the book. Even coconut water is going to have more sugar in it than you want to end your dry fast. You have to sip. You want to take 8 ounces of water, and you want to take a full hour to drink that 8 ounces of water. Just little sips. Little sips. It'll be the
What's
best.
that experience like? You haven't had anything to drink in 5 days, and you got that beautiful cup of, hopefully in glass, or some metal, not plastic. You got that water sitting in front of you. Walk us through that experience.
It is. I mean, I have a video going back where my wife filmed my first sip of water after 5 days, and it is like overwhelming. It's like you have such gratitude and appreciation for nourishment, the most basic of nourishment. And that, when I did mine, and it's, we've advised away from coconut water, but boy, I am telling you, it is the most flavorful thing you'll ever have in your entire life, is a little sip of coconut water after 5 days without. It's like emotional, and even thinking about it right now, these emotions are coming back around, like, will it even go down? Can I even swallow it? I haven't swallowed anything in 5 days. Like, does my esophagus still work? What we suggest is humic and fulvic right at the beginning. So starting to replenish, this is a non-negotiable. Do not drink tap water. In fact, we even suggest, when you're doing the dry fast, if you're going to shower, do not shower in tap water, because your body is going to absorb all of that chlorine, all of that bromine, all of that fluoride, because you are a sponge. You are dried out. So don't shower in tap. I know I'm speaking to the guy who's got an outdoor shower from a well, so I know that you get it. But it's really important not to expose yourself to toxins and pharmaceuticals and chemicals while you're coming out of it as well. So we suggest, spring gathered structured water with humic and fulvic in it. Sip it slow, take it easy. Then gradually, over the course of the next, 24 to 48 hours, introducing some some bone broth, preferably prepared by you, so that we're talking, grass-fed bones you got from your cousin, cooked over the course of 3 days, just the highest quality, most nutrient dense foods that you can have. And then it's just a really going slow, day two and a half, maybe a little bit of fruit, a couple of blueberries, maybe a strawberry. It will be the most flavorful thing you've ever had in your life. And then eventually going to, more elaborate soups and broths. We have a pumpkin soup recipe that's really excellent. We have a stem cell supporting smoothie that we give in the recipe book, which is, again, just like as many high quality, cleanest nutrients as you can possibly do, slowly and gradually over the course of the next couple of days. And then for me, I got a little greedy, I'll be honest. My first time, on day 3 after finishing my fast, I was like, I'm having a steak. Like, I can't wait any longer. Like, I think I'm good. I'm ready to do this. So, I had a steak. One thing that we really, really stress, and maybe you've heard of this. Are you familiar with Fletcherism?
Yes.
So this is just chewing your food so long that it just slides down your throat without swallowing. This is 30 to 100 chews per bite of food, because the research suggests that that's what makes it most nutrient. That's what helps with nutrient absorption. Just super slow, chewing your food so thoroughly that you don't even swallow. It just slides down your throat, which is actually kind of a thing I do now. I think that's a big reason why I've stayed lean, is that I do that all the time now. And it's boring, and it's, it takes forever to finish a meal, but my body just really responds to it. So just like really slow, really deliberate, over the course of a couple of days, introducing new nutrient dense foods. Here's another thing that's really, really interesting that I didn't want to leave out. At the end, we suggest that you capture your first urination after rehydration. Capture your pee, freeze it, let it thaw, and look at what is in your urine. We have everybody do this, and we have everybody take pictures. You would be astonished. Anybody that's listening right now, if you want to see these pictures, just DM me or email me. It's Sean@SeanMcCormick.com or Real Sean McCormick on Instagram, and I will send you some of these photos of bright green urine on day 6. Brown, smoky, silty urine with a 3 millimeter layer of what we believe are senescent cells and heavy metals in your urine after the fast. Your body's like, cool, now we're being nourished. Now we can really push stuff out. We can really let go of these toxins. Again, I don't want to get us kicked off YouTube. We've had some people who were injured by the thingy that we won't say, and their urine had little red and green crystals in it. Red is probably associated with mercury or heavy metals. Green is associated with graphene, and you can see it in your urine afterward. One more gross story. I don't love enemas, but I find them to be very useful and effective. On days 4 and 5, I did enemas, and I excreted 700 little tiny gallstones in that first enema on day 4. And so gallstones, compacted material, biofilms where parasites like to hide, and you can see it really clearly. And again, this is not like zeolite. I didn't do I know you have incredible detoxes, Rob. I know that you're on top of this stuff. This was just dry fasting and then a enema with distilled water. On day 5, the parasites left. And I took photos of the most ghoulish parasites, astounding little creatures that were starved and not broken or dismembered because they sequester heavy metals. So they're starving them. So they're actually keeping those heavy metals intact and then being excreted. And then you can take a little picture of this little thing that looks like a stingray, or a little thing that looks like an amoeba with a little foot coming off it. Just
like one of those things from Dune.
Exactly right. Totally right. Exactly right. The most shocking stuff. Yeah. I mean, again, I'm taking up a lot of airtime, and I have questions for you. So, if there's any other curiosities you have about the dry fasting, I'm happy to share.
I do. And one thing for you guys listening, if you're interested in this, the thing that Sean didn't really stress too hardly, because he's not a dickhead salesman, don't do this alone. Don't try to be a superhero and just go, watch a few videos and go this weekend and dry fast. Hook up with Sean. He's the man with dry fasting. The protocols are great. The community is really good. But, and Sean is going to be the guy who's going to break this down for you guys. It's not for everyone.
No.
Who should avoid it? Who are the people that maybe need a different something or need more prep? And what could be the dangers of doing this for the wrong type of person?
Right. No, this is super important. You're right. If you have deep vein thrombosis, if you've got varicose veins, not a good idea. Your blood gets very, very thick during a dry fast, and that you do not want to mess around with that. So if that's something that you're dealing with, don't do it. If you are underweight, if you are like single digit body fat and you're already really lean and you can't really stand to go a whole 5 days without food and water, this is not a good idea for you. Don't do it. Obviously, if you're pregnant, don't do it. If you're on medications, and just medications alone is gonna is gonna X out like 80% of the population. If you're on medications that you've never experimented with going off of, you can't do it. You can't be on medications of any kind and dry fast. Number one, you're not going to be able to get the medications down because you're not going to be able to drink. We don't suggest that you go in through the outdoor and try to do it that way. That's not a good idea.
Keister it.
You don't need to do that. Not a good idea. We list all of the contraindications that we've found from the research from Italy, Russia, and in the West around people who, if you have heart issues, not a good idea. There's a bunch of other things. If you have edema, if you've struggled with edema in the past, not a good idea. So we list all of the contraindications for people that absolutely should not do this. And if they're really interested and they're dealing with something very serious, some serious health issue, buy the ticket, go to Mongolia and go do it with Dr. Filanov in Mongolia, where you can be supervised the whole time. But don't do this on your own. It's so helpful to have other people with you that are also going through it. We have a Telegram channel that's dedicated. We do daily calls through every day, the days leading up, through the dry fast, and the days leading off the dry fast to give support. The people that participate in there, a lot of them are already kind of biohacker types. So, we're going to nerd out on magnesium types or grounding or circadian rhythms. So we do give you a lot of support, but this is not something that you should just decide to do. It could be dangerous for you.
And if you're not sure whether it's for you or not, reach out to Sean and he'll be straight with you guys.
Totally. Yeah. No, I like this stuff. I wanted the stem cells. That's what I wanted, right? Like the weight loss, that's not a big deal. I wanted the stem cells. I wanted the $30,000 to $40,000 worth of stem cells that I was going to get from my own femurs. I wanted that. That was my motivation. Biohacker guy doing N of 1 experiments and weird stuff. This fits the bill, but I wanted the stem cells and I got them. I got them. I had an ankle injury that healed up. So whatever your motivation is, if you're having some health issues, if you have gut issues, which is center of the bullseye for you and your people, Rob, this will absolutely reset your gut. And you don't even have to do 5 days. You could do a 3-day dry fast and get a complete gut reset. It happens just in a couple of days when you don't put anything in there, which is why it's important to then exit properly and repopulate your gut with the right probiotics and prebiotics and so forth. So yeah, I'm easy to find. You can go to dryfastwithfriends.com and get a bunch of cool information and sign up. The next one that we're doing is going to be January 8th through 12th. It's a 5-day dry fast with friends. So if you're interested or you just have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. But I want to flip the script here with you, dude.
Let's flip it.
Because I'm talking about detoxes and I have a number that I really like, but this is like You're an expert, and I know that you have made a number of adjustments in recent years because I've been following you. Your YouTube channel is insane. It's just so informative. You're so dialed in. I want to hear a little bit about the cleanses, the salt flush, the coffee enema, and what did you change your mind on?
Yeah, so my mind is always in that place of I can't help myself. I love new experiences and new data, and I'm just a research junkie in the form of not looking at peer-reviewed politics, but research, and I'm going to go out and do it over and over and over again until it either destroys me or I figure it out type of mentality. And way back in the day, I first started hearing about like coffee enemas from the Gershon Institute. I'm a San Diego native, and Gershon has a kind of relationship. He was from Germany in the 40s. He got basically kicked out of Germany for curing things that shouldn't be cured. And he was like, I'll go to San Diego because I'm be close to Mexico where I can do whatever the heck I want. So he started the Gershon Institute, and through my own studies, research, I kind of locked into them. And I had a lot of questions about coffee enemas, right? As most dudes that I talk to do. Like, okay, I'm going to stick something up my butt. First of all, I don't know if I'm down with that. Then also, like, I'm trying to get off drinking coffee. How's coffee going up my butt? Like, healthy? What does all this do? And it seems dangerous. Like, it just seemed dangerous. And then I witnessed 75-year-old women who have, they're having that big C, right? They're trying to heal themselves from the big C. And these are fragile, older women, and they do multiple coffee enemas for a year straight. And they come out of that thing vibing, strong, virile, healthy. And I'm like, okay, if that's what it's doing to them, then I'm jumping in. So typical coffee enema is really, really basic. You basically boil coffee. You add the amounts can vary, but it's around 3.5 to 4 cups of water boiled with about 3 heaping tablespoons of a high quality coffee. You boil it, you stir it in, you filter it, you put it in the bag, bing, bang, boom. The rest you guys can kind of, guess. It's quite an experience. That works perfectly good. In and of itself is totally fine. But after you've done them for 20 years and you're looking for a little something new to play with, or maybe they've gotten stale or they just don't work as good as they used to, there are some little things you can do the coffee enemas that will take them to a whole nother level, like rocket fuel. One of them is really obvious, but it's just add more coffee. A not very obvious one, but you'd be amazed by what 1 extra tablespoon of coffee in the mix does. You'd be ultra amazed of what like getting high quality cold brew, and instead of adding water, just doing a full, like I've gone a full enema bucket of cold brew straight. Whoa. And not talking about like 10 straight hours of like it too much, but you play with the dose. Number one, that's one thing you can do to instantly kind of like change it. On the flip side, if you do a coffee enema and you're one of those people where it just zonks you, like it puts you in crackhead world, try half a dose, try a dose with the same amount, and then fill up the entire bucket or bag with extra water. So dilute it a little bit. That can help. But what I'm noticing that's even more powerful that is if you kind of set the stage with your body right beforehand with elevating heart rate, elevating body heat, and putting some straight overt fats into the body. So now before I do a coffee enema, I'm going to jump on my trampoline. I'm going to run a few sprints. I'm going to do some jumping jacks. I'm going to do about 5 straight minutes to where I'm breathing heavy and my heart is not going out of my chest, but it's a solid rhythmic bumping. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take tallow, grass-fed butter, MCT, high quality olive oil or coconut oil, and take 2 to 3 tablespoons, right down. And this is before eating any food or doing anything. Get the heart rate up, get the fats in the system, then straight to the enema with the dose that works best for you. And that little adjustment of raising metabolism, getting fats into the body, which may or may not be a better way than things like the stuff like extra fiber or binders or things like that. Fat. Where do toxins live? In the fat. What do toxins combine to? Fat. Why are all toxins fat soluble? Couldn't tell you. So it makes sense to get fat in the body so that it can open up the pathways of elimination and actually bind to toxins and allow them to slip out even easier. So the fat, the metabolism boosting, and then jump into an enema. And I can guarantee across the board that you won't do this and have a different experience doing a coffee enema.
Do you do the coffee enema immediately after the 2 tablespoons of fat?
Basically, yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to be like, you're taking the fat and you got the tube and it's like, it doesn't have to be that quick, but yeah, eat the fat and then go into your bathroom and get everything prepared and lay down and do it. And you don't even really need to allow the fat to like get into the body and start doing things. It's almost like, it also could be a bit of a, effect where it's kind of like doing what like a gallbladder flush does. It's working with the liver and the kidneys and it's like making the sphincter, kind of like, the fat kind of like makes that bile response. It could just be triggering that as well. Cause that's what the coffee's doing coming rectally. So if you have fat and it interacts in that way too, it might just prep the organs to have better bile release. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. With that said though, as you bring that up, it could make sense to maybe eat the fat first, then do the metabolic conditioning, let the fat get deeper into the system, and then try it. So that's a fair point. Something people should experiment with too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm a huge fan. Yeah. I've got a trampoline well, and I've got hills for sprints, and I have a vibration plate that, I mean, it shakes your whole universe up. And, I do this for my 9 and 12-year-olds when they're constipated. I do this, I work out on it, but moving the lymph, just getting things going in your body. Like, okay, we're prepping. So I understand that there's probably a dual action there, not only for your metabolic systems to kind of kick in, but also for the just shaking things up and getting the lymph flowing as well.
Exactly. Yeah. It's doing all that. It's working with the circulatory system. It's working with the dopamine and serotonin receptors. It's working with your GH and hormone producing things. It's working with the circadian biology in the morning. It is literally waking up your organs. It's like they're getting gentle massage, and it's from a bipedal activity, which the figure eights, if you watch someone's back when they run or walk, it's actually doing a figure eight. And that figure eight is what almost everyone loses as they sit on the couch too much and they get stiff. Their normal walking and running becomes very rigid, and part of that messes with our organs. That figure eight walking, of course, the way God makes us is absolutely genius. Walking massages our intestines, massages our kidneys, and massages our livers, and make sure that they are actually getting almost like hands-on work on them from just walking. So if you don't walk, or if you get too stiff when you walk, then you're kind of missing out. And it does that. The motion activates so much. So it's circulatory, it's blood movement, it's lymph movement, it's activating the organs, it's waking the organs up. And then the fat is having that interaction with the bile and with the different systems and even possibly the toxins. Yeah. With the salt flush, it's basically the same methodology. Step one, play with the dose a little bit, add more salt, add more water, change the salt, change the water temperature if it's not working great. But do the pre-cleanse metabolic conditioning and fat in the exact same way, and you'll see salt flushes will also change.
Have you ever, just because I know you're a savage, have you ever taken the enema and then done a dead hang?
So this is funny because do you remember Dr. Robert Kassar?
Doesn't ring a bell.
He's still around. You should look him up. For those of you who know him, I ran into him way back in the day. He was like 10 years ago, a raw vegan. And he lives in Hawaii and he does all this cleansing. I learned a lot of stuff from him. He's a really interesting dude. And now he's an older fellow, super shredded, super ripped. But during one of his videos with the raw bras, when they were vegan, he was doing enemas and then just like doing handstands and walking around and like doing whatever. And I was like, wow, this guy is on a whole nother level. Well, I'm about 22 years deep from my first enema. I can do a full bucket enema and do whatever I want, work out, do upside down, jumping jacks, and then release it whenever I feel like it. And it's the same type of release. And now I feel the kind of like the urges and the body, like, you know, going through its process to try to get me to want to go take a poop. But it's not like it used to be where like the first couple enemas, like the first wave of that you get, you're like, you're up and on the toilet and it's coming out. So yeah, I can kind of, I've turned into that weird old dude that can do an enema and, you know, do yoga.
Yeah, I'm not there. I mean, I haven't done that many or that long. You know, I can hold it in there for, you know, 15 or 20 minutes and walk around and do that. But, you know, headstands would be a stretch for me. Oh man, that's amazing. Oh man. On that same, now since we're talking about the gut, we're talking about digestion, you know, fiber is a big thing, and I've got my own stuff I'm kind of toying around with. I'll share kind of what I've been doing, and then you can share with me what you've been doing as far as just digestion, which all of our digestion is messed up. Which is if you're alive, your digestion is not optimal. I told you that I'm doing mostly animal based with some fruit. Also, I eat a lot of honey, bee pollen, royal jelly. I'm actually getting royal jelly from a farm in Nebraska. I don't know how far it is. Prairie Valley Farms, I think is what it's called. They make a royal jelly product that, do you know much about royal jelly?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so in addition to the way that I eat, I've had a lot of pretty astounding success with like mega dosing psyllium husk. So I'll do 4 tablespoons in the morning and 4 tablespoons in the evening on an empty stomach. And I'll do that for a week, sometimes 10 days until I hit pay dirt, which is this excretion of what can only be described as this kelp-like seaweed that comes out, right? Which is, as I understand, is the sort of compacted linings of your digestion that are kind of a pulling out, because the psyllium husk acts like Velcro to pull that out. So now I like doing that so much, and I like the effect of my BMs by taking now, instead of, if I'm not going hardcore and doing 4 and 4, I'll just do like 3 in the morning and then get the results the next day. Obviously, like, I don't want to get my fiber from vegetables. So in my mind, I'm like hacking this fiber thing. And when you look at old school nutrition and even current nutrition experts, they're going to say everyone's not getting enough fiber. You need way more fiber. It's like, okay, well, if I'm doing fiber through all of these vegetables and fruit, of course, that's great. But if I can just get the fiber in its most pure basic form, and I can also eat the way that I like to eat that's best for me, I feel like I'm having my cake and eating it too, and I'm getting the benefits both ways. But I know that you have pretty strong opinions about gut health and how it pertains to fiber and like probiotics. Like, what do you think do you think my method makes sense? I guess is my question.
Yes. First of all, I think your method makes perfect sense, not because psyllium husk is some magical thing across the board, but because you've taken the time to customize your food intake to make your biomarkers and your biofeedback at the levels that you like. And that's the mistake that everyone makes. The mistake that everyone makes is they hear some doctor or they hear some influencer say, you know, you need to have more fiber. The biggest issue, and you know, the FDA says, and the CDC and the World Health, it's fiber is the way that you save everyone's diet. The glucose goddess, you just have fiber. It will, you know, stop everything bad from happening. Just fiber further mill. And that mindset, that type of dogmatic mindset, to me is just absolute and utter bullshit, like complete and utter bullshit, almost leaning towards like manipulation, propaganda, and absolute just fakery. I think what I've noticed within my clients, and I work with a very specific type of human, immune and nervous system disordered people. They're a special group. Across the board, for them, you add fiber, problems happen. You take fiber away, problems get better. Now, there's so much nuance to this, and there's a lot more details that where when we get into this conversation, people just, their eyes roll back in their head and they're like, this is just, there's too much, right? There's just too much. So the most basic way I can say it is the right amount of fiber for each person is important. Sometimes the right amount of fiber is 0, and sometimes the right amount of fiber is more than the recommended dosage from the FDA or the World Health Organization, or your local nutritionist, or your doctor who has no idea about anything about nutrition but heard something on Oprah. You know what I mean? Like, and the key is not to get into any other mindset except I have to test foods and find out exactly what works for me. And it's so boring and it's so deliberate and it's such a slow process, but it's 100% works. And throughout time, as your body changes and shifts, your need for fiber might go up or might go down. Also, here's another point of this that I don't hear people talking about. A lot of times when I post things about cleansing, one of the comments that I get is, well, what about the binders, dude? Everyone knows that if you're doing cleanses and you're not using binders, you're just going to recycle your toxicity. And it's like, okay, first of all, show me one speck of evidence that proves that. None. There's none out there. Number 2, what are binders? They're isolated plant toxins. Well, someone who's immune compromised and nervous system compromised who can't eat kale and has a flare up for a year from having one lick of kale, you think an even stronger plant compound that's even more fibrous is going to help that person? Tell me how the body can get rid of any toxicity if it's inflamed to the point where it's causing your skin to look like it's burning off your face. Not happening. So the same thing is true with probiotics. Everyone should be having a probiotic. Okay, well, what if the 1 million different strands that you just throw in there to populate your gut are ones that maybe are from plants that don't work for you, or from food sources that don't work for you? So I don't think that more fiber and more probiotics is the key to gut health. First of all, one, it's the basic boring thing of customizing the diet, but there is something that we have all missed for far too long. And we need to rewrite the story. We need to rewrite the way that we look at gut biome health. It has nothing to do with the food, first of all. Nothing to do with food, your gut. Think of your life. Think of your life, honestly. And do you hate it? Your gut's going to suck then. If you're under stress, if you're doing things that you hate, if you're around people that, if your cortisol levels for whatever reason, be it spiritual, emotional, your finances, whatever, you cannot have a healthy gut if your cortisol levels are out of balance, period. So step number 1 with my clients is simplify the diet to foods that are healthy and whole, that we know we can digest the best starting off. But we're going to spend way more time unpacking trauma, building new relationships, making sure our home environment is safe and secure and makes us feel good. And we're also going to go so deep into, if you do not like your life, change your life. You have one life to live, and it's not worth living this stressful, crazy, idealistic thing that so many of us have in our heads. We are in the time of life where it feels like there's chaos going on all around us. Is civil war going to happen? Is the world ending? Is there going to be a nuclear war? It's so scary out there, but we also kind of like are forgetting that this is the easiest time ever to make money. And it's the easiest time ever to secure healthy food for the most amount of people. So take advantage of that. Where I'm kind of ranting about is fiber and probiotics might have their place for some people, and it might have a strong impact for some people. Fiber and probiotics also might be the worst possible thing for other people. But the one thing that's true for all of us is that when we have balanced hormones and balanced cortisol levels, and our stress levels are that of normal stress, acute, something crazy happens, we take care of it, we get over it, and we go back to our calm, beautiful lives. The gut changes real fast. The stomach changes real fast. The sleep, which affects the gut biome, changes real fast. And also, I'm going to be beating this horse a lot this year. So for those of you who are a little annoyed by this, I've already gotten some negative feedback already, like hit the road. If you are neglecting your spirituality, good luck with any of this, my friends. Good luck. And whatever that means to you. Whatever faith, whatever spirituality means to you, lean into that and lean into your actual stress levels in your life and watch how your same diet will all of a sudden not be doing what it does to your gut that it always has done.
I want to piggyback on that because I think you're absolutely right. And that I love the way that you broke that down because I think you're totally right. If one of the 7 million strains doesn't work for you and you mega dose it, you're messing with yourself. And the same with fiber. I love that. On the spiritual side, and this is something that you mentioned really early in our conversation. Like, this is something that I've been focused on for a long, long time and is a massive part of my life, in my coaching, in my personal life, and in my family. And to simplify how we can think about what is the benefit of a spiritual practice. Like, what do I do? What do I do? That's one thing. What is this going to get me is another thing. And if you're agnostic or, you don't know what's real, what's not, what a higher power is or what it isn't, I think what it boils down to is we are inherently self-centered. We are seated in our own reality, and social media amplifies this. You've done such a brilliant job of navigating this, Rob, because you, like me, are a single person doing things in the world. And so the content how do I look? What do I say? How do I get this out to the world? How do I speak this out? So it's like you and I are both very we're personal brands that are trying to help people the best way we know how. Similarly, for other people, they're thinking about themselves most of the time. They're thinking about, how am I going to pay this bill? Why did that guy say that to me at the office today? What are my deadlines? My kids are stressing me out, etc. And when you have a spiritual practice, however that looks, what it does is it allows you to get out of the self-centeredness that is driving you into the dirt. When you realize, okay, there's something bigger going on here that doesn't have anything to do with my oil change that I need to get in my car. It has nothing to do with that. I mean, it has everything to do with that, but it has nothing to do with that. When you can take a moment to have some sort of practice, some routine where it's not all about me. It's not all about my stuff, my baggage, my stress, my body, my gut, my preferences. It's like a load off. It's like, okay, there's something else going on. There's a greater entity in the universe there, whether that's Odin or Gaia or God or Buddha or whatever. If there's something else that's bigger, that's managing the world and involved in everyone's lives, we are all one. We are all part of the same global community. You get relaxed. It sort of takes the load off a little bit. You don't have to focus so much on yourself, and you can think about the drama, the cosmic drama that's constantly changing and unfolding in the universe. I'm a part of that, but I'm not at the center of it. And that feels pretty good. It's relaxing to you. And when you can...
It's relieving.
Oh man, it's like, I can lean into that there's a greater purpose, that there's a greater thing going on that I can't possibly understand in this life. It takes the edge off a little bit,
Yeah, man, that's a really, really big point. I think most of us in some way suffer from main character syndrome. I know for me, there was a pretty profound change right around the time that my skin healed. There's no coincidence there. My spiritual awakening, my re-spiritual awakening in life happened the year that my skin decided to go normal. And there's, like I said, there's no coincidence there. And I was lucky enough. I was a cradle Catholic, and I have two devout Catholic parents who pray the rosary together every morning. And I've had so much blessings every day sent to me from them, guardian angels, prayers. I've had the luxury of studying Zen and Buddhism and the 8 limbs of yoga. And when you allow yourself to stop the illusion of control, it's a relief. And also when you figure out that, man, I can't drive this vehicle very good. I suck at driving. I'm always going to suck, but you're not supposed to drive your vehicle. You can't. It's like, that's got to be left up to a higher power. If you let the higher power drive the vehicle, then you can sit back in the back seat and connect with the trees and the birds and think about life and enjoy the ride. And to me, that's what it is. I don't have control. I'm not manifesting and making these things happen. I'm a part of something that's much bigger and more beautiful and more amazing than I could ever even fathom in my little human brain. It kind of does take the pressure off. And it also allows you then to kind of like get in alignment with something that's just bigger. And also, if you really look at all of spirituality, all spiritual practices, they involve 2 things. And when you learn about longevity, what are the 2 things that matter more than anything else? Your spiritual life and your family. You know, if you have a strong family connection, and family meaning your friends and community, and you have whatever spirituality you are, it doesn't matter. I have mine. I have my things that I do, and everyone, it's a personal thing. But when you have both of those things, it's almost like having health and success is almost like hard not to have.
Yeah, totally.
And without them, it doesn't matter how disciplined you are, how good you are, or how solid you are. As you just continue to try to be the driver of that vehicle, you get smacked in the face with that. The control is just an absolute illusion, and you have none of it. So giving it up to someone who can do a better job with all that than I can, for me, it's a daily thing. I have weeks, like after the Charlie Kirk thing happened, I swear all I did is pray and cry for like a week and a half. And it wasn't like I'm sad. I didn't know Charlie Kirk. I didn't really watch his videos, but just the energy of the world, I could tap into it and feel it. And it was honestly like the most beautiful thing ever. And it was like these releasing tears of like my own flaws and my own sins and my own lies. And it was just giving it up and giving it up to somebody else. And I feel wholeheartedly that that's the only reason that I healed. And I wholeheartedly feel that that's the only reason that I have some level of success and stability in life, is because I am, at the end of the day, a warrior for Jesus. You know what I mean? Period. Yeah. It's his will that moves through me, and I'm looking for him in other people. I'm looking for him in myself, and I want to be awesome at what he made me. And the funny thing is the more I give over to him or give over to a higher power, the less I have to take on, and the better everything gets in terms of the results. So it's a spiritual journey for me, 100%.
Yeah, it's unavoidable, right? We're all gonna die one day. That's you can't avoid that. So the time that you have to understand that reality and to get right with that, and to live your life in a way that is meaningful and on the right path and full of grace everywhere, grace every day, all day, as much as you can. That's one thing that I focus on with my coaching clients, who are typically, really high level entrepreneurs, founders, executives. Like they've been chasing achievement and growth and prosperity. Yeah, they've done really good at building companies, and something's missing. Like they turn 55, maybe they're going to sell their company and they're about to get a massive payday for all the hard work that they've been doing for the last 25 years. And then they're like, okay, what next? What do I do now? And when you can find grace in yourself and find grace in others and connect with the grace of God, and it's like it works to soften the hard edges. It works to take the pressure off. And if you orient your thoughts, your behaviors, your actions around grace, your life changes really quickly, really quickly. Do you need to be mad at that person at the grocery store? No, I don't. Do I need to be beating myself up because I didn't hit my deadline, or I had a lousy day at work? No, you don't. You just make adjustments and give yourself grace. That it works. It works for everybody. And it has to be experienced. It can't be listened to on a podcast or on a YouTube video. You can't read it in the Bible and then it clicks for you. It's experiential. You have to like really go there. You have to grok that feeling of grace. And when you do, it's like, oh man, things are pretty good. Like I'm all right.
Yeah. The evidence for that in myself is even when I'm in strong relationship with Jesus Christ himself, like a real actual relationship, like talking like friends and like feeling his love, abundance happens in my life. But the thing is, I don't care. Like I can take or leave it at that point. Like I love my farm. I love my buildings. I love my trucks and all my stuff, but you can have it all and I'm fine. It's all good. And when worst case scenario for you is no longer worst case scenario, when everything that you are really, really anxious and feared, that keeps you up at night just no longer has an emotional impact on you, the way life feels is literally really different. It's a different game.
Yeah. Yeah. It is a different, and it's different all day, every day. And again, this is something that you can think about, you can read about, you can watch a thing, but until you like really get it, you feel it in your body, you feel it in your brain, you feel it in your soul, that it changes your life. And it can happen like that.
And for those of you listening, I totally agree. I want to talk a little bit to the non-believers or the atheists out there who are maybe listening to this and they're kind of like, that all sounds great, but is there a way to like tap into that without like Jesus or Buddha or a system? Like, I just don't want to be connected with that. The thing that anyone can do to feel this type of feeling that Sean and I are talking about is for no other reason than to help someone out. Just go out of your way at some point and do something very, very nice for someone who needs it. And you'll know exactly what we're talking about.
Totally right. Yeah. Yeah. Service is a shortcut. It's a hack for it, right? When you are of service, in service, providing us service, again, to someone who needs it, we've all had that feeling. Hopefully that feeling is accessible to people. Like when you give your kid a birthday or a Christmas present, or when you held the door open for someone cruising in on a wheelchair, that taps into it. It's funny, on a personal note, my grandmother, who's 93, has been going through some health issues recently. She was in the hospital with pneumonia. She's in an adult family living facility. I've been spending 3 hours a day with her 5 days a week for the last month. And I've been spending time in an adult living facility with women in their 90s who have late stage dementia. Some of them are nonverbal and can't feed themselves. And I'm hanging out with these gals like 5 days a week, just chilling. And I'm there for my grandmother, but in being in this home where some of these women have not left their bed in many, many months. Some of these women are barely getting around. They're forgetting stuff that was said moments ago. I know that my presence there, 40-year-old guy who's smiley and thoughtful and asks questions, it changes the energy in that place. And the workers have said, hey, we really like having you. We're really, not only are we touched that you're spending this much time with your grandmother, but we're also happy because you're elevating the energy inside this place, and people are smiling more. They're talking more. Some of them are actually becoming more alert day to day. When I walk in, hey Grace, Harumi, how are you? Shirley, what'd you have for breakfast? Like, it's such a simple thing.
Karen, looking fine today, girl.
Yeah. Dan's like, hey, I got a thing in my room. Will you come check it out? And I was like, what is it? What is it? She takes me in there and she's like, I just wanted you to come into my room for a minute and just hang out and chat with me. I was like, okay, cool. Like, I've never faced that. I've never been immersed with people who have late stage dementia. I've never spent, 20 hours a week with people who are in the last chapters of their life. And what it's done to me is it's been really emotional, to be honest with you. And I'm going to go see my grandmother today again. It's affected my prayer. It's affected my meditation. It's affected my gratitude practice. It has strengthened and created greater depth of appreciation for the life that I have. And it has, it's been a very important part in my life. And whether my grandmother lives another 10 years and makes it to 103, or whether she doesn't, the fact that I'm able to spend this time as a coach and an empath and someone born with certain abilities of second sight, I'm already attuned to people in a very specific way, very broad way. And the work that I'm doing with my coaching clients has me sort of perfectly set to go into a place like this and just, shine light and talk shit and hang out. And what it has given back to me is an even deeper appreciation for my life and my journey. And I've been posting about it a little bit lately. Call your grandmother, call her, call your grandfather, call your parents, check in, send them a picture of what you were up to that day. You have no idea how profound an impact that makes on your family when you check in and you stay connected. And it sounds so simple, and there's a million reasons why you haven't called your mother in 6 months because you live in a different town or she's been, weird with you or whatever. Like, it makes such a massive impact on them and on their day and on their mental well-being and on their health that is just a simple act of service that you can get more connected with what we're talking about just by calling your mom, calling your brother, calling your sister. Like, it's so simple, but it works.
It does work. It's like just really what people want is they want to feel your undivided presence, and when you give that to someone from a loving place, you can feel it. There's another little, I don't even want to call it a hack or a biohack, but my vocabulary is not so diverse that I have to repeat words. But I think a cool spiritual hack is take that same mindset that Sean and I are just talking about, but point it towards an enemy. You'll be, if you meditate for, pray for, do something like literally kind for someone who you aren't vibing with or don't get along with or is your enemy, not for the sake of flipping them, not for the sake of, in a way, like getting at them with niceness, but just literally sending good energy to someone that you hate. Watch what it does to you. Watch what that does to your bullshit. It's kind of profound. Yeah. We hold on to so much inside of ourselves that it's like, it's no wonder we don't have the room for health because we're so bound up with all of these tensions and that guy's wrong and this guy's wrong. And that's a problem with social media. I tell people all the time, like, I do not do Instagram at all. I'm never on there. Like, I post, I go to my DMs, I go to my comments, and I try to converse. I do not watch shorts. I do not spend time on Instagram. TikTok is not in my world at all. Facebook is not in my world at all. YouTube's great just because I can, that's like long form, you know what I mean? And it doesn't have the same algorithm that tweaks me out. But you can also kind of like give this same type of respect that we're talking about. Okay, let's pop it outward and you get like an instant feedback loop, but you can also kind of like be nice and do these good things to yourself all day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can actually be a center of that. And I think that limiting short form is a huge thing.
Dude, don't get me started. I struggle with this because I'm on Instagram a lot. You know, I'm on there a lot. I post a lot. I engage a lot. You know this about me, but since March 2020, I've gone pretty hard in the paint against the narrative, and I was right. I continue to be right. I asked the right questions. It took a toll on me. Because that was the hill I decided that was the one I was willing to die on. Is that I have a little bit of a platform, I have a little bit of an audience. I'm gonna speak out against this, and I got wrapped into that pretty hardcore. Again, out of a place of love, because I thought people should know that you should read the insert. I thought people should know that these things don't work, these protocols don't work. This is not gonna help people. This is gonna damage people, and I called it, and I got stuck in that vibe. And it is a relief to take some breaks and to step away from that for a little bit from time to time. And what I'm noticing, and this is not just me, and I know that you know this too, even if you don't spend much time on Instagram, is there is an awakening happening on this planet that is spiritual. It is a spiritual awakening. And when you think about, okay, what's my role in this? How do I, okay, let's just assume the premise is correct, that there is a spiritual, you could call it a war, you could call it a conflict, you could call it an awakening. Let's assume that's correct. Think about how you're contributing to that. What role are you playing in that? Do you like to go on Instagram or X and call people dumb? Do you like to get into arguments with high school buddies on Facebook about their favorite team versus your favorite team? If that's the case, and you are confrontational, negative, controversial, and not coming from a place of love, day in, day out, when you're in the bathroom, on the toilet, when you wake up in the morning, right before you go to bed, on your lunch break, if you're doing that day in, day out, and you're getting sucked into a paradigm of negativity, anger, fear, pain, loathing, not only are you contributing to that, which is not that productive, but it's also you're actually enhancing all of that negativity in yourself. I did an episode with David Avocado Wolf a year and a half ago, and we went way out. And I just did it again with Dr. Artis, Dr. Group, Dr. Schmidt, and Dr. Ely, the Healing for the Ages crew. We're naturopaths and chiropractors and Chinese herbalists and all these wonderful people. There is a force on this plane. There is a force of consumption and fear that is very real in this world. And it doesn't contribute anything. It just takes. It just feeds off of negativity and anger and fear as a life force. It gets its juice from conflict and negativity and fear. It actually feeds off of that. We could talk about Ahriman, and Lucifer. This Steiner talked a lot about Rudolf Steiner, who was a living mystic master, wrote all about this. There are forces in the world that are that come in different ages. And in this late age, Ahriman is like number crunching, distilling information or wisdom into numbers. And Lucifer is the light bringer, which also like pleasure feels good. There's pleasure and there's intrigue and gossip. And these two forces in the world are very present right now because we have access to all the world's information in our pockets. And when you think about, okay, how am I contributing to this? What's my role in this force that's happening on the planet right now? And just sort of assess, is it helping me to argue on Instagram? Is it helping anybody else to argue on Instagram? Or is it just feeding this force that goes nowhere? And I think we're probably preaching to the choir to a large extent, Rob. I know that you've got wonderful people. I've got really wonderful people too, but I also have some, biohacker bros that are pretty intense. And so I think this is my appeal to everyone, that just take a minute to think about how you're contributing to the vibe on this planet and what you're bringing into it and what you're taking home with you into your household. And just be honest with yourself about whether or not it's productive or it's for the greater good.
Or if you even like it.
Right. Yeah, right. Does it feel good?
Like, man, at the end of the day, if you're anxious and you can't sleep and you got to, watch a ton of porn and smoke a bunch of weed just to kind of like feel unfillable void, maybe your nutrition, meaning what you take in from all your senses, if it's mostly negative, you're going to have pretty negative results, right? Yeah. We're not breaking any new ground here. I think we're kind of proselytizing our own experience because it is profound. And I think that like when people are trying to heal, they might not look into these areas. You know what I mean? They might focus on nutrition and cleansing and just get really rigid, but then they don't notice their interactions on social media or the way they talk to their parents or the way they talk to their kids. And it's like, that's just as it's all the things. And kind of piggybacking off that, something that we have like total alignment on is I don't think a person can activate their spirituality unless they activate their biceps. So tell me for you, how, as you've kind of come into a new phase of your fitness and health, how has that kind of turned your spirituality into a superpower even more?
Yeah. I think that an excellent sort of examination of this connection between physical vitality and spiritual or consciousness elevation, I really like to look at guys like Paul Chek. Paul Chek is kind of the archetype for this idea. For those of you who don't know who Paul Chek is, he popularized the Swiss ball, the Bosu ball. He is a living master in health and wellness. He's got a great podcast. Spirit Gym is what it's called. He's an author. He was a paratrooper, boxer, turned, fitness expert. The dude is just on another level. And this is a theme that keeps coming into my podcast, is what is the connection between, like, why get fit? Why get fit? Why should we be healthy and strong? Well, because we want to live a long time. That's a good reason. Yeah. Having a long health span is a good enough reason to get your gut right. But what else? Why else do we want to be fit and strong? And the answer is, when you are vibrating at a high level, you got a good CO2, you got strong muscles, you can walk for very long periods of time, you don't have a lot of pain in your body, you are nourished, rested, bright and shiny. That vessel, this physical vessel that you are optimizing and amplifying, is also a conduit for connections to expanded consciousness and deeper spiritual awareness. It's maybe this is obvious for people, but it's pretty tough to have a deep spiritual awareness or expanded consciousness if you're in pain or if you're unfit or if you have dis-ease. It's really tough to elevate your spiritual life if you're unhealthy. It's like if you're unhealthy, like Rob, if your skin, if your skin is a massive issue for you, and you don't want to go outside and you don't want to see people and you're agitated all day because you have skin issues, it's pretty tough to be connected to higher realms of consciousness and deep blissful meditations and fulfilling prayer, because I can't look past this thing that's going on for my body. If you're out of vibrancy, if you're depleted and tired, that's the only thing that matters. And this is another Paul Chek quote, which is, sooner or later, health is going to be your number one priority. And it's true. So if you can kick that can down the road, if you can run hot, stay healthy and vibrant, strong and fit and optimistic and active and doing fun stuff, feeling great, having great sex, sleeping really well, and then just like drop dead at 95 or 120 or whatever, and then that's it. Man, that's my goal. That's what I'm trying to do. I want to be really healthy, really vibrant for as long as I possibly can. The other thing is, how you do anything is how you do everything. If you have dysfunction in a certain area of your life or in your health, that's going to translate. It's going to get into your finances. It's going to get into your family, into your sense of purpose. It's going to find its way into your home. And so as you elevate all of these, I have a coaching tool called the Life Positioning System that looks at 8 core areas of your life. That's money, family, health, fun and recreation, environment, life purpose, spiritual development, and romance and intimacy. Those eight areas kind of cover everything. You do an assessment of, like, on 1 out of 10, where am I on these things? Am I a 4 in health? Well, let's make this more realistic for our listeners. If I'm a 4 in romance and intimacy, and I'm a 4 in life purpose, but my money's good and my house is really nice, there's an imbalance there. Like, that stuff's going to come back to you. Your relationship with your spouse is going to suffer. If you don't get hugged, if you don't get loved, if you don't have intimacy, and you don't know what you're here on this planet to do, that's going to come back. And it might not come back to you until you're 65, but boy, oh boy, it's going to hit you like a freight train when you realize, man, I was focused on the wrong things. So as you elevate your health, as you become more vibrant, as you vibrate literally at a higher frequency through nutrition and rest and grounding and all these things that you and I take so seriously, everything elevates. Everything elevates. You experience life to its fullest. You're tapped in at a higher level that's going to enrich your life, but it's also going to enrich the people's lives around you. And even bigger than that, it's going to enrich the lives of people you don't know. It's the we, all. I'm going to take care of my stuff because I want to be the best I can be. And look at that. My family benefits from that. And look at that. My community benefits from that. And the world benefits from that. There's another quote that I always turn to, which I think is just so profound. This is a Ram Dass quote. The greatest gift that I can give you is to work on myself. And the greatest gift that you can give me is to work on yourself. And if we all did that, if we all did the work on ourselves and everybody's doing their work to be their best, the rising tide raises all ships. Everybody's vibrating at a higher level. You're thinking clear. Your meditations are more profound. Your exercise is great. You smile more. It's just, it's all connected. And if you are in dis-ease, if you are broken and tired and burnt out, it's really tough to focus on anything else.
Well said, man. And I find this part really interesting. So your kind of 8-point system for recognizing possible imbalances and weak places and places to focus in yoga. And I deeply studied yoga. I'm a certified yoga therapist. I went as deep as you can go into that studies. The system is built around the 8 limbs of yoga, which is the yogic tradition of looking at all aspects of the body, human, spirit, emotions, the way we interact to find those imbalances. And a lot of people don't know this, but through the 8 limbs of yoga, one of them is asana, which is the physical practice, which is the forms and the vinyasas and the flows and the standing poses and the sitting poses and all that. The yogis looked at asana and the 8 limbs for one reason and one reason only. And that reason is to prepare themselves for prayer and meditation. So that's how seriously they take this stuff, just to prep to sit, just to be able to sit in the presence of themselves and God and everyone else. And the thing about this is that I think that why Sean and I we're kind of like driving this home today pretty solidly. And I hope people are realizing that that's for a reason. That's not something that is on accident. It is probably the cornerstone of every single person that I've worked with. When you look at, I've worked with a lot of people. I've been doing this for a long time now, over 3,000 people. And I can picture like running through my head all of these wonderful clients and humans that I've worked with. You know what I mean? I can see their faces. I can feel their energy. And it brings me to like great sadness sometimes and an empathy that pulls at my heartstrings with some of them. Cause I know that all they're missing is opening up to the other side, the spiritual stuff, the emotional stuff. And I know that some of them won't ever do it. And I think that's why Sean and I today are like really pumping this home, because take our job serious. Sean takes his job serious. I take my job serious, not only because it's important, but because I want to be a vessel of light. I want to be good at that. And we would be missing the block if we didn't pound this home.
Totally. Yeah, no, and the thing I think people would benefit from remembering and be opening up their awareness to is that it can happen in a really subtle way. This shift where, man, everything's a struggle. Man, everything's a struggle. And if you have eczema all over your body, man, I get it. Like I went through a time for a year and a half where I had dermatitis on my face and I had yellow scales, like I missed my senior game in college soccer because I didn't play because my face was I didn't even want to go outside. So I've been there. I know what that's like. When you remember that just a little improvement, a little tiny shift can be the beginning of some major life change. It's not like you don't have to wake up and be like, oh my gosh, I totally get it now. My life has changed. It's like, no, like I feel rested today, or I was able to walk a bit longer on my walk than I typically was. Like, oh, my skin looks pretty good today. It's not as inflamed. It's not driving me crazy. Or, in case with some of my clients is, waking up and knowing how to execute on your purpose, knowing what the steps are to be the best version of yourself that you can possibly be, waking up and knowing that you've got a plan to do, that feels pretty good. And then it snowballs and it snowballs and it snowballs. So it's little tiny things that can totally change your life, that if you're not really paying attention, you can miss them. You can miss the fact that some synchronicity happened in your life. You think of it as a coincidence, but you were thinking about your buddy from high school and he calls you and you're like, huh, that's weird. Huh. How you been, man? What's going on? Like, no, there's something there. There's a fractal piece of something greater happening. And to boil this down, to make it practical, we're so distracted that if you don't have any quiet time during the day, you're going to miss this stuff. If you don't have any stillness, contemplation, meditation, even like in a cold plunge for a few minutes, or a walk without earbuds in. Don't use those anyway. If you don't have those moments, if you don't create those moments throughout your day to like let the non-physical, subtle things kind of creep into your awareness, you're going to miss them. And so sitting and doing breath work for 5 minutes, doing a yoga practice where that's the only thing you're doing. You're not thinking about your bills. You're just holding warrior two for the best that you possibly can. And then like those instituting those moments throughout your day could literally change your life. But sometimes it's a little trickle. It's a little bit and a little bit.
That's awesome. Will you share with everybody kind of some of your daily basic practices for allowing yourself some quiet time, alone time, space to kind of tap in?
Yeah. Well, I bookend every day with meditation and prayer, non-negotiable. It keeps me from going bananas, frankly. And, you know, 2 kids, I coach jiu-jitsu, I coach soccer, I have coaching clients, I'm caring for my grandmother, you know, my life, like, my sister-in-law was in town for the last week. My days are pretty packed. And in order to be present and reliable and have a positive attitude, I've got to do things that are just for me. So prayer and meditation first thing in the morning, prayer and meditation right before I go to bed. And my practice has shifted over the years. You know, I've studied lots of different meditation techniques, and I've kind of found what works best for me. The other thing that is also a non-negotiable is just at least 5 minutes barefoot on the grass in the front yard. Like, we know it works. It's scientifically proven. It's a hassle to go out and take off your shoes and just stand around in the grass with your neighbors walking by. Rob, that's not a problem for you because you're on a farm. For me, waving at the people walking their dogs at 7:15 in the morning while I'm out there sipping my coffee, it's a little weird, you know, like what's he doing? But it helps me. It helps me ground, helps me relax. Breath work, what I've found, especially with high intensity dudes, and that's usually who I coach, is high intensity dudes. Breath work is so effective because meditation is hard, and to get good at it, to like slow your mind while you're seated, is challenging. Sometimes it takes years to have that moment where you're like, sure took me a long time back when I first learned when I was a kid. Breath work is so, it's the fastest route to just like, boom, just drop in. Just, whew, I'm not doing anything but focusing on my breath. That clears the mind tremendously. It's so fast, you know, whether it's the 4-7-8 breath, whether it's a box breath, whether it's the 3-3-3, whatever techniques you have to just do it. And it doesn't take more than just a few minutes to breathe. That just like the whole world goes away, and then you become more centered for a second, and then you can go and start your day. So there are some, you know, there's a ton of other things that I do intermittently. I'm the kind of guy, I have to exert. I have to push, and I'm competitive and a former college athlete, and jiu-jitsu has just become a central part of my life. You know, I'm chasing gold medals and belt promotions. You know, I'm a 2-stripe blue belt. Got a competition coming up. I have to exert. And I think that a lot of people do have to exert. They just don't think about it very much. But I'm my best after a hard workout. I'm more calm. I'm more present. You know, the cold exposure is wonderful. You know, walks in nature are wonderful. You know, undivided attention with my kids is, again, like dinner at a table with my kids, no screens, talking about your day is like, that's the kingdom. Just hanging out with the fam, chilling, cracking jokes, having a sense of humor, sharing what's going well for the day, what's been challenging for the day. Like those are all non-negotiable things that just help me stay grounded and present in my life. But I think for most people who are looking for, okay, what's the quickest, biggest bang for my buck? Breath work. 5 minutes. Don't overthink it. Just get into that practice, and you'll find that everything kind of like settles in your life. So those are some of my tips.
I love that. Yeah, I have a lot of similar daily practices. The physicality is a must for me, and the physicality comes in different forms. There's the gym physicality, there's the sport physicality, but then there's also like the physicality of being a useful human, like digging holes and putting wood fences up and like building things with your hands. And I find that even if you have like music playing and it's not in your headphones, this works better if music's playing in the background, but you like get into some repetitive physical thing that you kind of enjoy. Some people, it's like mowing the lawn or vacuuming. It's just kind of like easy enough, but it also gets something done that gets you almost into a trance state where you're preoccupied with something, but that thing is easy enough to where your mind is relaxed and wanders. That's when I find I get a lot of downloads, and I kind of use that space on purpose to be like, okay, I'm doing work, but I'm not really focused on the physical work of like raking. I'm just like opening the vessel and listening and like just seeing what comes through. And that's a practice I try to play with that in as many different ways as I can. For me though, also, I think a place where people get messed up here is they hear us talking about this, and like, you know, for me, like morning prayer is a non-negotiable, but it's not a non-negotiable because it's something that I've said, Robbie, you have to do that and you're going to do it. It's something that I love doing. If I don't want to not do it. I actually have a hard time getting out of that state. I have to like, okay, done praying, done meditating. Like now you have to enter the world and like do stuff like, cause I could sit in prayer and meditate all day. So I think for people, finding something that you actually look forward to doing, and generally that's around something that makes you feel something good, right?
Yeah.
And so I think breath work is great. For me, it's this really old school. First thing I do when I wake up, it's literally still dark out. I do my morning rosary, do the whole thing every day. And then I have my prayer list for the people and that I'm praying for. And every time, that's my favorite part of the day. That is my favorite part of the day. It is like, I feel like I'm tuning into something special, and I'm so stoked that I just get to be a part of this. Like, whoa, like, thanks for the invite, man. This is dope. So I think that with people, it's do that thing that actually like doesn't feel like work. You know, if meditation practice feels like, fuck, I don't really want to do it. It's like you have a lot of like angst about it, or you just feel like it's not the right time. Do something else. Like I've seen the deepest form of meditation watching a person dribble a soccer ball alone on a field, like, you know, or watching someone swim, or watching dance is a beautiful way to meditate. So there's a lot of practices out there. What you're hearing from Sean and I though is, a big part of it is like, get out in the sun, into the nature, see the green, see the grass, see the dirt, see the birds, hear the sounds, unadulterated with headphones or music or anything. Just kind of like be out there in nature, and just kind of, you don't have to do too much, you know, for 5 minutes, just like walk around and be bored. It's okay to be bored.
Totally. Well, it's in our DNA to do that, right? Like 25 grandmothers ago, that they did that most of the day. They were
maybe even like 5 grandmothers ago.
Right. Like they would hang out, they would chat with friends, they would walk to get this or that. They would, you know, get their hands in the dirt. They were not distracted by excessive amounts of novelty every single day. They were just kind of tapped in, and they were happy. They were grounded, they were present. And so we have that in our genes. We are genetically predisposed to really need that time to just do nothing. And all the best ideas come to you when you're doing nothing. You're sort of half watching your kid's baseball game, or you're in the shower, or you're fiddling with something in the garage. Like, that's when, where did that come from? That little idea. Oh, where was that? Oh, that's a solution to a problem, or something else that excites you and turns you on. And that's harder to do if you're in a loop of consuming information online, or if you're caught up in the news too much and hyper fixated on stuff that really doesn't affect you at all, go watch some birds, go to a park, go get near a body of water, and you're right. Trust what you like. Trust what feels good to you, and then just do that.
Absolutely, man. I think we're hitting on a lot of good stuff today. I'm glad the conversation went in the direction that it did today. I'm seeing, I think you're right. You said earlier, and we should probably talk about food just a little bit, because I think people listening to both of us are like, okay, they better talk about food. So I'll get to that in here in a second. But I just want to recognize too that I think that now might be, for those who kind of are feeling what we're saying, like, strike while the iron's hot, because there is some chasm that has opened in the last month and a half to 2 months, where the spiritual seekers, we are getting a lot of juice right now, my friend. So join the team.
Yeah.
All are welcome. All are welcome.
Right. 100%. Yeah. Yeah. Do something. And if that's changing your behavior online, or if that's picking up the Bible again, or, reading autobiography of a yogi, just go for it. You won't regret it.
This is your sign.
This is it.
Yep. So you switching over to the diet stuff now, we were talking about this kind of as we were catching up and starting the cast, but you had gone pretty deep into carnivore. And now I've recently added some carbohydrates to it. I'd love to kind of get your input on adding carbs to carnivore, and that whole thing. And also I'm curious as to just what a typical day of eating is like for Sean right now.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to turn this question right back around for you, because I think we all want to know your answer as well. Yeah. Typical day of eating, wake up in the morning, immediately I chug down, how many minutes is this? This is my mason jar. I think it's probably 32 ounces. I put humic and fulvic in there. I put the psyllium husk in there on empty stomach first thing, and I chug it. I have a talent for drinking liquids really quickly, which was problematic in college, but now it's just really really effective for getting really high quality hydration. I'm going to plug water. Water is so critical, you guys. Go to findaspring.org and go find a primary water source. Invest in either glass is better, but they're heavy as shit. But get BPA free plastic jugs, drink that water. You will feel different. If you start drinking higher quality water that's primary, it will change you. So that's how I start. Typically I won't eat until about 11 o'clock. So after I've had my psyllium husk in primary water with humic and fulvic, then I'll have my coffee. I've been putting collagen in my coffee a little bit. I've done the whole bulletproof, ghee. I did that for years, and it's fine. I don't need it, and I'm not chasing ketosis anymore. So I just, put collagen in there for joints and for, cover my bases, and also get, I guess it's the equivalent of 15 grams, maybe 20 grams of protein in my coffee in the morning, which getting the protein minimums is critical for me. Typically around 11 o'clock, I'll do eggs. I eat a ton of eggs. Sometimes I'll slonk down 8 raw. I'll just drink them straight out of my trusty mason jar, add a little bit of Himalayan salt into there. Other times I'll make, scrambled eggs. I've been eating more fried eggs to keep those yolks intact and undamaged. So, again, it's usually between 4 and 6 eggs is my first meal. Typically I'll have fruit in the earlier part of the day. It's been pear season up here in the Northwest, so I've been eating pears, a lot of apples, blueberries, strawberries. Occasionally I'll have some yogurt, some high quality yogurt with berries. And occasionally I'll also add like pumpkin seeds to that for the anti-parasite and, all the other benefits that come with pumpkin seeds in yogurt. So my first meal is fairly large, and then I'll maybe have another piece of fruit in the late afternoon, an apple. I've kind of stayed away from bananas, but have an apple or so. Maybe some cheese in the afternoon. Another thing that is big at my house and has been for months is raw dairy. Found an incredible local grass-fed raw dairy source here in my neck of the woods, and so I'll have 12 ounces of raw milk a couple of times a day because I love it. It makes my gut feel good. It has this cooling effect in the gut that I really love, that I can feel, that my kids really love too. And then in the evening time, I'll be honest, like our nights are kind of hectic at my house. Both of my kids are athletes, jiu-jitsu, soccer, basketball. I do jiu-jitsu in the evening time. So dinners have, kind of been crazy with back to school since the fall, but usually it's pretty simple. I'll do, a steak or some chicken. I like chicken thighs, a lot, just higher fat content, more flavor. We've been doing, so we eat a ton of chicken, a ton of ground beef. Occasionally I'll just do grass-fed ground beef raw, and just eat it maybe with an egg yolk on top of it, maybe with some other sort of some capers or some pickles or some fermented foods like sauerkraut in with the ground beef. My kids eat a fair bit of rice as well. So we'll make white rice. I'll have white rice maybe once or twice a week, but that kind of does it. I'm the kind of guy that does not shy away from celebrating with food. If I'm at a birthday party and there's cookies, I'm going to have a couple cookies and I'm not going to cry about it. If there's birthday cake, I'm going to have some birthday cake. I don't starve myself of that stuff because it is fun, and I'm not so dogmatic about it that I miss out on that sort of stuff. If my she likes to make gluten-free baked goods, so like a gluten-free scone or a gluten-free cookie. It's got a ton of sugar in it, but I'm gonna enjoy that with my family. Rice Krispie treats have come back into the fold. We got the bougie marshmallows, the actual marshmallows, rather than the Stay Puffed or the fake ones. Puffed rice and marshmallows on a Rice Krispie treat a couple of times a week, a little, square this big, and just enjoy it. And that's kind of it. From a liquid standpoint, if I'm feeling a little low energy, I might have some more humic and fulvic. I like Element, the electrolyte drink powder. It fits the bill, and as active as I am, I do need to replenish minerals because I sweat like crazy when I'm doing jiu-jitsu. So I'll have that in my water bottle and sip on that. This weird concoction that I'm drinking right now is an elixir of Schisandra, lion's mane, and some other berry that I forget. I'm kind of dealing with, I think I'm hypothyroid a little bit. I've just been cooking like for a long time. You're shaking your head like, yeah. The thinning of the eyebrows on the edges, the eye bags in the morning that take a while to kind of go away. So I think I've been redlining for quite some time. I know I have. And so I'm experimenting with, Chinese herbs, B complex, iodine, and Brazil nuts for the selenium to get that into my system. So I've been, trying to naturally course correct for the hypothyroidism. But yeah, man, it's pretty simple. I'm the kind of guy that I could eat the same thing every day. I could have salmon 3 nights a week, 4 nights a week. That would be no problem. The rest of the family doesn't love it so much. But so I kind of eat what they eat, but just more simply. If I am going to have vegetables, which I do occasionally, carrot, an organic carrot or organic cucumber. It's mostly water anyway. It's really cooling. But that's how I cruise through the day, and I don't really snack. If I do, it'll be maybe a couple of nuts. But it took me a long time to get here. I went vegetarian in college. It messed me up. It messed me up so bad. I can't believe you made it 8 years. I did it for a year and I did it poorly and I regretted it because it really sent me sideways. I did carnivore for strict carnivore for as long as 6 months, and I liked it. I benefited from it tremendously, but it wasn't sustainable for my level of activity. So yeah, well, I'm curious, is there how does that sound to you, and how similar is that to you?
There's a lot of overlap in terms of kind of your philosophy of how you're eating now. I'm very similar. I'm really simple. I can repeat meals ad nauseum. When those meals get boring, I make one little switch, and then that's the new 5-month meal. If I'm at my mom and dad's house and my mom makes food, I don't care what it is, I'm eating it. If I'm at a birthday party and there's red velvet cake, I'm going to have some pieces. I went to a gala last night. My sister does real estate, and she's single, so she took me as her date, and I had a couple of gin and tonics. So I truly believe in anti-fragilism, but I do think that you have to earn it. Like I would have never had a single cheat meal or done stuff like this while I was in the process of trying to heal. Regularly though, my diet right now, it switches off from different things during the course of a year based on what type of experiments I'm playing with. Right now, I'm about to start a series teaching people how to healthy bulk. Most people, when they bulk, their gut biome goes to shit. They get way more fat than they gain muscle. Just digestion, testosterone, all the stuff you're hoping to get virile, it just goes to crap. So I'm kind of going to show people how to do that, which that's one thing that I'm good at. Like I spent all of 2021 and 22 at 205 to 207 pounds. I'm sitting in front of you right now at 174 pounds.
Dang.
So my goal is I'm going to do a 6-month bulk and probably put on somewhere between 20 and 30 pounds and not have my body fat change all that dramatically. And I'm in that process right now. So I started the experiment after I didn't touch a single weight during this last summer for 2.5 months, which is crazy for me.
Wow.
All I did was build. It was like 10 hours a day of heavy building. When I mean by building, I think I have to kind of not underpaint the picture. Building for me is like by myself, putting down a row of 4 foot deep, 3 foot wide cement rat walls and not using a machine. So carrying 300 bags of 80-pound concrete from my truck to the barrel, mixing it by hand. That's like deadlifting all day. That's a typical day for me while I was not lifting. And I actually got way buffer not lifting. It was crazy. I was like 167, shredded, veiny, big. I was like, wow, this is wild. But I did that to bottom out. I wanted to see where my natural bottom was if I just didn't eat a lot, if I just ate for health, and see what happened. So 168 is like my natural bottom. And for about 3 weeks now, I've been in bulk mode, 176 of this morning. And what does that look like, healthy bulking? So for me, that means with my morning caffeine, somewhere between 300 and 800 calories, somewhere between 30 and 60 grams of protein from raw milk. Mixed in with my caffeine, usually green tea matcha. Then that kind of sustains me. And I'm either getting really deep into, yes.
Question. How much milk is that? How many ounces of milk do you think that is?
But it's around 32 ounces, probably.
Nice. Ooh, baby.
Yeah.
Nice.
Right around 32 ounces. And I'll do I have the big metal, this is about a 16 ouncer. So that gets filled up twice, generally, sometimes 3 times. If I'm, for some reason, not very hungry, I might only do one, but typically it's 60 grams of protein, 600-ish calories. Then I will, as I get hungry throughout the day, I typically do that as my breakfast, and then I get into like brain work, right? Like making content, having conversations, reading, writing, building my business, working with other people that work for me, just kind of doing that type of stuff. And if I get hungry during that time, it's like raw fruit juices. I'm just carbing up, and sometimes I'll eat from 10 in the morning until 2 o'clock when I have my first real big meal. I can put away like 3 cantaloupes and 10 bananas easy. Like,
really?
Yeah, like my carbohydrates are well over 400 grams per day right now. Well over 400. So that's like snacking. And I call that like that's my pre-workout. Then around between 2 and 3, I have a substantial workout, which typically is in the gym or on the farm in my workout gazebo. I have all the stuff, sandbags, kettlebells, gymnastics rings. In the gym, I focus on the big compounds, and I go very, very heavy. Like I'm not there busting out 15 reps. I'm, grabbing the 90s and doing, elevated hill lunges for sets of like 6, like really trying to beast out on the 6 to 8 rep range. Then after my workouts, that's when I have my first meal, which is some form of protein, some form of carbohydrate, and some form of healthy fat, typically about a pound of something. And then it will be typically rice, peas and carrots, sauerkraut, coconut aminos cooked in butter, olive oil, MCT something. And then it's something similar to that at around 7 o'clock for dinner, sweet potatoes. Typically it's sweet potatoes and another pound of something, whether it's turkey, whether it's lamb, whether it's seafood, whether it's beef, whether it's bison. That I kind of mix up. But typically it's my carbs are fruit, dairy, white rice, root vegetables, specifically peas, carrots, sweet potatoes. I do kraut in every meal, and I do coconut aminos in almost every meal. And then I have ice cream every night.
Nice. What kind?
Yeah, just like homemade basic stuff, ice, raw milk or raw cream, and then berries. Every once in a while I can find like homemade ice cream at my local store, because I'm in kind of a weird, like everywhere around me is farm. So it's like you get weird products where I live, but I can find like, and it's just a normal brand, but it's like grass-fed cream, normal, just sugar and fruit. And so I will eat a pint of ice cream every night. So my calories are like 3,500. My protein is 170 plus, my carbs are 400 plus, and my fat is between 80 and 130 grams per day, pretty much day in and day out.
Okay. Man, oh man, that's a lot of food.
I'm a big eater. Yeah, I'm a big eater. And it's weird for me when I bring carbohydrates in and I elevate my calories like I do, I always lose weight for like the first 5 days. Like my body turns into a fucking furnace, and it's like I just lose weight, and then it kind of like slowly ramps up. And luckily in the 3,000 to 3,500 range, my body fat just incrementally goes up so slowly that it's real manageable, and it's never a stress.
Yeah, it's going up with the lean mass you're putting on.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. And that's it day in and day out. It'll probably be that way for at least 6 months.
And you started that? How far into the 6 month of the bulking?
About a month. The first week was really weird because it was right around when Charlie Kirk got shot. And like I was saying earlier, month after that, or like a 2-week period after that, I cried and I prayed. I don't know why, but something was moving through me, and I lost a bunch of weight. Like the first week bulking, I like hit it hard and was like, dropped my 2 pounds. And then by the day 10, I was like 9 pounds up. And then I had my week of praying and crying, and I was back to 170. And then since then it's been, the first week after that, 172, the week after that, 174. And then now I'm kind of plateaued 175, 176. And that'll probably be 2 to 3 weeks there. And then all of a sudden my body will do a weird jump. It'll go boom, 185, like out of nowhere. It'll just be bam. And generally what happens with that is also like I'll have a strength, like a weird strength increase. So as my strength goes up, my body shape kind of is in direct correlation with the strength gains.
Makes tons of sense. You don't do any protein shakes. You don't do any creatine. You don't do any of that stuff.
I don't supplement any kind right now. That's part of what I want to show people is like just absolutely not even vitamins, not a multivitamin, not a prebiotic, not a probiotic, nothing. No creatine, no whey protein, no collagen. Yeah, nothing. All whole foods.
I just did an episode with this company called Spren. They just released this. This is tangential, but it's fascinating. And what it does is it takes a picture. You do an underwear picture, and the AI basically analyzes your body fat percentage. I don't know if you've seen platforms like this. I just did an episode with the guy yesterday, and he says that it's as accurate as a DEXA scan.
Wow, that's cool.
They just did some studies recently where they tested the app alongside the DEXA, and it's the same margin of error. It's like, you know, for a body fat percentage calculation, it's like a two percentage either way. So it's the first. I've never done a DEXA or an in-body. You know, I did the caliper pinch when I was in high school and college for football. You know, to see how fat Sean is. But this I like this a lot, and it's easy to use.
I'm definitely gonna check that out. I have and I'll kind of, I don't want to get, this is a huge rabbit hole, but I'll just kind of drop it a little bit. I think that there like guys like Paul Saladino, a guy named Simland, Ryan Johnson. You see these guys and they're kind of like all hyper focused on longevity. And one of the things that they seem to have really bought into is like the lowest body fat possible gives you the best longevity. And I've found that to be utter wrong for myself and most of my clients.
Right.
When I'm under 10% body fat, my body's inflammation and biomarkers start to get real weird and real gnarly. When I'm 175 pounds and 9% body fat, I love the way that looks in a picture. But it's actually not the healthiest for me. Strangely for me, all of my biomarkers, including my labs, are better when I'm at 18% body fat.
Right.
15 to 18% is like my sweet spot. So I'm trying to re-educate my brainwashed brain from, I believe, from my raw vegan days and my vegan days of like, raw is law, slim is the key. Like if you're not absolutely shredded in your abs, you're unhealthy. And I'm like, no, man, like, my body is most virile and I feel the best when I have like the Jason Momoa thing going on, where I'm like, I'm not fat at all. My muscles are as big and strong as they can be. My body is mobile and moving really well, but it's just kind of flat, but not shredded. And it's like, I've had to readjust my perspective about it, but it's been liberating to fall in love with that shape of me, like farm strong, bear strong. And I'm saying this for the young guys out there, because I think I went through some form of body dysmorphia big time as a younger person. Most of the time we are trying to get shredded because we think it's going to get us girls. And you ask Sam Solek, when you get super shredded and super big, you get the guys.
You get the guys.
It's for the boys.
Yeah.
It's for the boys. Like, girls are attracted to a virile, strong man.
Yeah.
And everyone has that expression. Every male has that version of themselves. Maybe a little leaner version, maybe a little bigger version, but we all have that virile veracity. So what I say is, if you unequivocally go for biomarker feedback, how am I sleeping? How's my hormones? How's my sex drive? How's my VO2 max? How is my strength in the gym? Can I put on a 80-pound vest and knock out 25 miles of hills like pretty easily? When you're focused like of performance metrics and biomarker, your body's going to look rad.
Yeah.
And it's going to be your rad body, unique. And it might be a little heavier and less shredded down low on the abs as you might like in the beginning. But what I say to guys is like blur your vision and look at your body shape as a whole. And typically what happens when we have abs? We have no ass, we have no biceps,
right.
and we have no back, right? It's gone. And when we allow the body fat to get from like 12%, 15% into that range, you have a flat torso, and it can have muscle, especially if you don't neglect that, but you get your ass back, you get your hamstrings, you filled out, your neck grows. And that's kind of where I'm personally trying to re-educate my own brainwashing to be like, that's what's beautiful, that's what feels good, and that's what I think is actually more sexy.
Totally. I couldn't agree more. I mean, that's the Jason Momoa comparison. You're right. Just that's a guy who, that body type is agile, has good cardiovascular output, sleeps well, is less stressed, hormones are balanced, the fat is available that you have, you know, to protect your organs. Yeah, I'm not all about the ultra low single digit body fat percentage. The ass thing is huge. I mean, I'm a soccer player, and I've always had, you know, and I'm 42 now, so I've always had like a nice rounded ass and thick thighs from playing soccer. And when I get really lean, when that's not even that lean, but when I get really lean, the ass goes away. My jeans look ridiculous. Like the pants I'm wearing. It's like,
and my mom is like the beacon of truth. Like I've fought this my whole life, but my mom is always right. Her perception is like straight fact. And I always know I'm in trouble when my mom goes, you've lost some weight. You're looking pretty thin. She doesn't say, oh, you're shredded, nice abs. She's like, it's like she's worried, and that's straight from her heart.
Yeah.
And it's only been in like the last 5-6 years where I've really kind of honed in on that as like, there is even all the work I've done my entire life, spiritual work, emotional work, physical work, I still was caught in this thing of like, I want my abs to look a certain way, and then not noticing all the other bullshit that it created in me.
Yeah. That's a little bit of fat, plenty of big round muscles. That's the ticket. There, I saw this little meme. It was Henry Cavill in Superman, and he's like shirtless, and he's got this necklace on, and this woman was like, she's like, this is the ideal male body. A little bit of fat, plenty of muscle, little bit of body hair. And then the comments below where these guys were like, that's literally Superman. like you want us to be Superman, but that's the same physique as Jason Momoa. It's this like D-end kind of middle linebacker, like some fat, lots of muscle, round, and not ultra lean and not soft. That's the ticket. I think that's the sweet spot. I think for me, I fluctuate, 10 pounds, sometimes in a day. And I think that's probably pretty common. Right now, I'm walking around at 187, and based on this test, I'm like 14.8% body fat, which is like
that's right in the sweet spot,
kind of right there. But I need to cut down to 181 to compete in the jiu-jitsu tournament in now 2 weeks. It's coming up fast. So, since I got you, what's a smart and healthy way for me to cut from 187 to 181 and not have to deplete myself?
Yeah, that's a great question. And how long do you have to do that?
2 weeks.
2 weeks, so 14 days. I mean, the way that I would do it is I would start to, I would kind of like jump into a bigger deficit quickly, but then I wouldn't keep the deficit getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Because sometimes what happens is we do the opposite. You start to lose weight and you go like a 200 calorie deficit. And then by week 2, it's like a 500 calorie deficit. But then like, as you're getting closer to competition, you have the least amount of calories that you've had. So I like reverse pyramid it.
There you go.
Where you start off with like do some dry fasting, you know, maybe do a day of dry fasting, mix in some intermittent fasting, like get your nutrients in, but start to play the game of just lowering the calories, and then get to a place hopefully where you can be like a little under where you need to be. And then the 2 to 3 days right as the competition's happening, carb up, water up, hydrate up, and basically get your body to a place where you weigh in and then you carb back up and you're basically 185 again.
There we go. There we go. That's really good advice. Yeah, I did it incorrectly last time. I cut and cut and cut and cut the week leading in, barely made weight. I got a silver, or I got a bronze in the gi. I was signed up to compete with no gi in the afternoon, but I was done. I was completely spent. And I had 4 matches, which were 5 minutes each. So it was like 20 minutes of exertion. Let's call it 17 minutes of exertion, but I had taxed all of my energy stores, and I had, done very low calorie for like the 4 or 5 days leading up, and I had like no gas in the tank. So I wasn't able to do the afternoon competition. So I like that sort of heavy front load now, and then kind of maintain, and then be smart the couple of days.
Yeah, like take the brunt of the cut early, and so that you're not dealing with that as the competition gets closer. Like as you get closer to the competition, be as close to caloric maintenance as possible so that you feel normal.
That's a great idea. I love that. Thank you.
If I was going to fight, I would do something similar to that in a longer stretch. So I think the fighters who and the grapplers and the jiu-jitsu practitioners that are the best are the guys who compete at the weight that they're closest to year round.
Right.
Because it's just like, but if that's a little bit lower than you normally like to be, then obviously that can be a whole year of kind of like being in a deficit. And so if you can stay like 5 to 10 pounds close to that, and that way you can do like a 2.5 month or like a 2 month cut rather than like a 2 week, then that makes it really easy where you can cut hard fast, get a little lower than you'd like to be, and then spend the last week actually building up so that you almost get like those, like you're back in a surplus as you're entering competition, and you're just, you've got it all.
That's great. Ooh, I like that a lot.
All right, you guys, thanks so much for watching today's video. Links to connect with Sean will be down in the description box. Of course, links for my private skin health community will be down in the description box as well. Same with one-on-one coaching with me. Also, the one thing that I do want to ask you guys rather is, if you are interested in my series that I talked about in the podcast today about doing a healthy bulk, leave a question or a comment down below, or hit that like button. Seems like there's a lot of interest about how to heal yourself, how to bulk, how to get big and strong while at the same time trying to be really healthy or heal yourself. A lot of people fall into the trap of, when they start to try to heal, they start to cleanse and detox, and they do it way too much, and they get a little obsessed with being really, really lean. And I'll tell you what, based on my work with a lot of clients, there is both issues with having too much body fat, and there's even more issues with being too lean for too long. And I'm going to cover exactly how to avoid that. So if you think that might be something you're interested in, like I said, leave a comment, question down below. See you guys soon in many more videos. If you're still around watching this at this point, you are a true trooper, and appreciate you much. See you soon.